What? Island of Ghosts, huge skull vault. The tall, terrifying Kaido of the beasts looks like a ghost. He stared viciously at the bloated and fat Yuan. Quinn, who had just reported to himself, as round as a ball, and couldn't believe it. The big snake was killed. Quinn spread his hands. Brother Kaido, this is the news from Orochi's confidant Quangshilong just now, it can't be wrong. Who exactly did it? Kaido of the beast's complexion was ashen, a little furious. How dare you spoil Laozi's good deeds? Among the people alive at the scene, there were only those geisha and some guards, but no one saw what the murderer was like. He passed out inexplicably, and when he woke up, General Orochi had been killed. It is speculated that someone might have used Conqueror's Haki stunned them. One of the big signs of the beast's pirates, Quinn guessed there. Conqueror's Haki. Kaido of the beasts was inexplicably surprised when he heard this. He frowned, and asked with some doubts, is there anyone else in Wano Kuni who has such qualifications? As far as he knows, the only ones who have Conqueror's Haki in Wano Kuni are himself and that idiot, son, Yamato. However, Yamato, who suddenly awakened Conqueror's Haki a year ago, was restrained by him with a slave bracelet on this island. If he left without authorization, there would be an explosion, so he couldn't leave at all. What's more, the current Yamato is only 9 years old, and his strength has not yet reached that level. Not that natural monster of the Charlotte family. It doesn't have to be someone from Wano Kuni. Wearing a black uniform, with a pair of black wings, and a mask, he couldn't see his face clearly, and there was a raging flame behind his head. Flame calamity, Jin said in a deep voice. It can't be ruled out that it's from the outside world. Brother Kaido, Quangshilong said that the capital of flowers is in chaos now, and you, the king of protecting the kingdom, who was conferred by the General Orochi, have to go to the town in person. Quinn said helplessly to Kaido of the beasts, otherwise, if those warriors develop some unreasonable ambitions and try to compete for the vacant general position after Kurozumi's death, chaos will break out sooner or later. In addition, Kiyoshiro said that their Kiyoshiro family firmly supports Kaido-sama as the new General Wano Kuni. Bah! Kaido of the beasts couldn't be more satisfied with a warrior as strong as Kushiro willing to serve and support him. Although the big snake is dead and some changes have taken place, it doesn't matter. But he pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said directly, but I'm not interested in being a general. But my stupid son can. Master Yamato? Fire disaster, Jin and servant disaster. Quinn couldn't help being taken aback, but nodded immediately. As the son of Kaido of the beasts, king of the protecting kingdom, that Master Yamato succeeded Wano Kuni as the general, which is justified. Go. Quinn, you stay here. Jin, you and I go to the flower capital. Roar. The voice of Kaido of the beasts fell. With a loud roar, he directly transformed into a blue dragon. The unbelievably huge dragon body is majestic and full of terrible oppression, which makes people's scalp tingle. The cyan dragon rushed into the distance, and ordered without looking back. Go ahead, the big snake is dead. From today onwards, I am the master of Wano Kuni. All the warriors under his command must obey Laozi. Any warrior who dares to make trouble, kill without mercy. Oh, yes, Master Kaido, and Kaido never expected it. Not long after he left, on the coast of Ghost Island. A deserted area. In the air, a door suddenly appeared. A silver-white figure walked out of the green space directly. Wow, boss, this skull is so big. Pado, the civet cat on Wilhelm's shoulder, looked up at the huge skeleton building, full of disbelief. The huge observation haki was released without hesitation. Covering the entire island, countless rocks and vegetation, a large number of buildings. All come to mind. Brush. In the huge skeleton building, inside the treasure house of the beast's pirates. The figure of Wilhelm appeared directly here. Among the mountains of gold jewels, there are several strange wooden boxes. Dog fruit, phantom beast species, Deco true god form. Opening one of the boxes, I saw an orange fruit that looked like a persimmon with a little pattern inside. The defense is so lax, no wonder the devil fruit found by Kaido is always stolen by a group of little devils. Putting away the dog fruit, phantom beast, Deco true god form devil fruit, Wilhelm sneered. If the original trajectory is followed, it is not just the ability of this phantom beast Oguchi true god that was stolen by Yamato. Runti and Peggy Wan, one of the 6 sons of the future, also directly stole the abilities of 2 ancient species from Kaido of the beasts, thus gaining a firm foothold in beasts pirates. River boss, don't you want those devil fruits? Seeing that Wilhelm didn't seem to want to take away the other devil fruits, Raccoon Pado asked a little puzzled. The same thing, if you do it too many times, it will leave marks, there is no need. Shaking his head, Wilhelm said indifferently, before we are fully prepared, Let Kaido keep it for us first. Although there are still a few good devil fruits, but what happened to Marie Joy's? If all the devil fruits disappear at once, Kaido of the Beasts will soon find out that he sneaked in to steal. The Big Mom pirates are currently busy preparing for the war with Marine. Now, there is no need to prematurely attract the hatred of the Beasts pirates. In the end, they are just a few passable ancient species, and he has also collected a few good ancient species. In terms of quality, they are no better than those collected by Kaido of the Beasts. Furthermore, it is estimated that Kaido of the Beasts will not give them to others in a short time. Let Kaido of the Beasts keep it first, and after you don't need to worry about the pressure from the Marine side, it's no problem to come and get it later when you have time. Gah. At this time, the door to the treasure house was opened. A little girl about 9 years old, with horns on her head and a bruised nose, walked in tiptoe. His eyes widened involuntarily. Huh? Inside the vault of the Beasts pirates. Because the father Kaido of the Beasts issued a death order, no one is allowed to give him food to eat. He has not eaten for several days. The hungry Yamato finally took advantage of the pirates guarding the treasure house to drink, got drunk and stole the keys from them. I feel that this room is so tight, there is probably a lot of food in it. In the end, she never expected that there would be someone inside. She was a little surprised. Huh? Run hee hee, who are you? Tanuki Pato asked with a smile. Are you thieves? Yamato rubbed his growling belly, thirsty and hungry, blinking his eyes curiously. Well, it counts, Wilhelm shrugged. He had already noticed the movement of the other party outside. The little girl took advantage of the guard to get drunk, and secretly stole the key to the treasure house from the guard. In the next instant, a faint blue light flashed in his eyes. Brush. For a moment. Whether it's Wilhelm or Yamato. They all disappeared in the treasure house in a no-man's land. Wilhelm came here with Pato and 9-year-old Yamato. Little girl, you're starving. Hurry up and eat. Wilhelm sat there, looking at the little girl with a bruised nose and a swollen face. The massive observation hockey scanned from the giant skeleton building to the kitchen of the Beasts pirates. He casually sent a few pieces of bone in meat that was half a person's height obtained by using the ability to transfer fruits, and sent them to Tianhe. Wow, it's edible. Let Yamato's eyes light up. Saliva flowed from the corners of his mouth. Still warm, exuding a fragrant smell. The whole person jumped on it directly, grabbing the bone-like flesh that was almost as high as her, and the starved ghost's reincarnated buttocks were biting hard. While gobbling it there, she was a little moved, tears flowed out excitedly, and sent a good person card to Wilhelm and Tanuki Pato. Woo. Good man. The corner of Wilhelm's mouth twitched. Tanuki Pato asked, Turkey hee hee, were you brought here by that villain Kaido? No, I am Kaido's son. Yamato perfectly displayed the giant stomach inherited from Kaido of the Beasts, where he wiped out the food at an astonishing speed. Hi, but every time I tell my father that I want to be a man like Kazuki Oden, I will be rejected. He beat me up and locked me up, and nobody gave me food. Son? He wiped his eyes again and again. Keep looking at each other to make sure you read correctly. Civet cat, Pato was confused, and looked at his boss. Boss, isn't she a girl? It should be that this girl is determined to become a man like Kazuki Oden, the guy who advocates violence in Kaido of the Beasts, and raised her as his son. Wilhelm shrugged and said with a light smile. Thank you all. After killing those fleshy Yamato, he burped. Patting his own stomach, he said to Wilhelm and the others contentedly, I haven't eaten so full for a long time. In this world, there is no normal parent who would treat their children like this. Rubbing Yamato's head with his big hand, Wilhelm looked softly and said dotingly, unless they never treat their children as relatives. He sighed there. I, like you, have an abnormal parent. Such a little girl with amazing potential. It's worth his effort to abduct him. In particular, it is best to let her go with her willingly. Otherwise, staying in Wano-kuni would be a waste of her monster talent, which was perfectly inherited from Kaido of the Beasts. At this time, Yamato, no matter how much he admires Kazuki Oden, should not be deeply poisoned, and there is still time to change his thoughts subtly and slowly. Furthermore, even if you can't make him change his mind, it's okay to have to worship Kazuki Oden, as long as you don't become that kind of brainless fan. Yamato felt that Wilhelm's big hand was very warm, and could not help but squint the crescent moon. Looking at the unbelievably handsome big brother in front of her, she asked curiously, Big brother, do you have a father like this? No, it's my mother. Wilhelm said with a smile. My mother is like your father Kaido. She uses her children as tools and never allows them to go against her will. A woman who will not have any hesitation for her own children. What? Really? Yamato's eyes widened, and he couldn't believe it. How can there be such a mother in this world? Isn't your father, Kaido of the Beasts, such a brutal person? Wilhelm said with a smile. If your vitality is not strong enough, I think you would have starved to death. But. Yamato was taken aback. I thought about all the abuse and beatings my father has given me this year since I said I would become Kazuki Oden. For a while, I couldn't help but hesitated. The one in your hand is a bomb bracelet, right? Touching Yamato's little head, Wilhelm pointed to the bomb bracelets on her hands, and said calmly, how can a normal father treat his own bones with such things? Eh? Are you talking about this? Holding up the handcuffs on his hands, Yamato said with some uncertainty. Father said that I am not allowed to leave this island, probably just to scare me. Is it true? Let's verify it. Wilhelm said, and asked Pato for a deformed leaf. Pato, deformed leaf. Because, in Yamato's incredulous eyes, a green leaf flies up, and the smoke fills the air. A thin figure with a blue nose and a swollen face appeared in a state of embarrassment. The difference is that this little girl does not have a bomb bracelet on her hand. Huh. Yamato's eyes widened, looking at the little girl in front of him who was exactly like him. He couldn't believe it. Isn't this me? This is Pato's ability. Wilhelm thought directly. The bomb bracelet in Yamato's hand suddenly disappeared. It was directly put on the hand of the little girl on the opposite side. This is my ability, to be able to shift the target. Wilhelm pinched Yamato's cute little face full of surprise, and said with a smile, I put your bracelet on her body. Then let's see if your father, Kaido of the Beasts, regards you as his own daughter. Wilhelm said, ordering directly. Soon, under Yamato's astonished gaze. The little girl wore a bomb bracelet and walked towards the distant coast. Master Yamato, what are you doing? Wait, don't jump. You have a bomb bracelet in your hand. Master Kaido said that once you leave this island, there will be an explosion. No, it's just to scare me porridge. Boom. Woo. Wow, 9-year-old Yamato. There was a puckered mouth and big watery eyes. Looking at the coast in the distance, the self, who disregarded the dissuasion of the panicked pirates, jumped into the sea and wanted to swim to the distance, but there was a violent explosion, thick smoke billowing, and no bones left. The little girl was terrified immediately, and couldn't help crying anymore, tears streaming down her face. Father bastard, he really wants to kill me. Woohoo. Hey, don't cry. Wilhelm stroked Yamato's head, comforting there. With gentle eyes, he looked directly into Yamato's big teary eyes and asked, will you leave with me? Really? Woohoo, big brother, can you really take me away? Saddened, Yamato grabbed Wilhelm's hem and raised his head with tears in his eyes. The little hand couldn't help wiping away the tears, full of grievances and fears, sobbing. Woo, wow, I don't want to stay here anymore. Stay here again, I will really die. Woo. Hey, don't be sad. Wilhelm touched Yamato's little head and said with a smile. We are all the same kind of people, if no one loves us, only we love ourselves. Only we love ourselves? Yamato's little pear face with rain, the conservatory looked at Wilhelm. My name is Charlotte Wilhelm. If you want, I am your relative, and you are my sister, Yamato. Dear ones. Yes, true relatives, from today onwards, I am your Wilhelm big brother. Do you want to? Looking at the extremely handsome silver-haired boy who is close at hand. That magnetic voice seemed to echo in Yamato's mind. Yes, I am willing. The little girl's eyes were shining brightly, as if she saw the light of hope. She nodded her head heavily. The little face was full of tears, full of indescribable joy and dependence, tightly clutching Wilhelm's clothes, as if afraid that he would disappear. Great, I have a big brother, Wilhelm big brother. Not long. Mood swings are too high. Yamato was bruised and bruised again. There were wet tears on the little face, lying in Wilhelm's arms, and fell into a deep sleep. River he, boss, shall we leave next? Tanuki Pato asked. It's time to go back. Wilhelm got up with Yamato in his arms. The corner of the beast's pirates, he must continue to dig. However, those worthy combat powers in the beast's pirates in the future have either not yet appeared, or have been fighting with the Kaido of the beasts for many years, and they are loyal and cannot be kidnapped. Moreover, Naval Headquarters is mobilizing the troops in the first half of the Grand Line with great fanfare, forming a large marine fleet, and preparing to conquer the Big Mom pirate group. Right now he doesn't have so much time to stay in Wano-kuni to search slowly, and he doesn't need to be in such a hurry. After the conflict with Naval Headquarters is over, it's not too late to come back to Wano-kuni when I have time. As for the Red Sheath 9 heroes, it will be time to subdue them slowly. Now. The capital city of Wano-kuni, the capital of flowers, has been bleeding like a river. Kaido of the Beasts personally led the Beasts pirates, and bloody suppressed those warriors in the capital of flowers who tried to gather rebellion because of the death of General Orochi. Flame, and disaster. Jin personally led some pirates to suppress rebellions in other areas of Wano-kuni, and tried their best to ensure the normal operation of those weapon factories, which is the current economic lifeline of Beast's Pirates. Beast's Pirates has been able to develop so rapidly in the past few years, thanks to these arsenals. Of course, the price is to almost dry up and fish. Wanakuna's water source, air, farmland and other ecological environment have been severely damaged and polluted by the sewage and waste gas discharged from the arsenal. If things go on like this, it will surely change from a self-sufficient, resource-rich country to a barren, heavily polluted, uninhabitable hell where human beings cannot live normally. However, the Beast's Pirates obviously don't care about the lives of those citizens. Master Kaido, it's not good. A pirate ran up the shit. Panicked and full of anxiety. What's the matter? In the general's mansion, Kaido, who was sitting on the throne that belonged to the General Orochi unceremoniously, frowned while carrying a gourd of wine, and reprimanded him. Panicked, hopeless guy. It's Master Yamato, Master Yamato. The pirate faltered and broke out in a cold sweat, not knowing whether to say it, for fear of being angered by Kaido of the Beasts. Kaido raised his eyebrows. What's wrong with Yamato? Master Yamato, disregarding dissuasion, jumped into the sea and wanted to swim away from Oni Island. As a result, the bomb bracelet you ordered to wear on her exploded surprisingly. What? Kaido of the Beast's complexion changed drastically. He stared viciously at the panicked, sweating pirate. His eyes were filled with terrifying bloodshot eyes, and his fierce eyes were full of disbelief, full of indescribable violence. Say it again. You mean my son just died like this? The incomparably tall and incomparably demonic figure exuded the aura of a prehistoric beast, making people terrified and shuddering. What's the matter? The pirate's face turned pale with fright, his legs trembled, and he fell limp on the ground. He was trembling, holding a phone and beckoning to the furious Kaido of the Beasts. This is Lord Kui Yin's phone. While terrified, he cursed secretly in his heart. Quinn, that bastard, was obviously negligent and didn't take good care of Master Yamato, causing him to have an accident. He didn't dare to report directly, and deliberately let his subordinates come up with a wave of anger first, so that Master Kaido was mentally prepared, and then he himself reported to Kaido of the Beasts through the phone bug. Quinn, what's going on? With clenched fists and blushing veins on his forehead, Kaido of the Beasts suppressed his anger and asked loudly. Although Yamato is a useless son, he never thought of killing the other party directly, otherwise he would have locked him up and starved to death. Whether it is beating him violently or starving him, it is just to wear down his will and make him submit to himself. The bomb bracelet was only used by him to scare the other party at first. Since he thought Yamato was so timid, he would not dare to run away. No one would have dared to let her board the ship without his order. I'm very sorry, brother Kaido. On the other end of the phone bug, Quinn was sweating coldly, and his scalp was numb. I cursed in my heart, it's not that you, a father, are too cruel to put such a powerful bomb bracelet on your daughter. But he didn't dare to show it, so he could only bite the bullet and cautiously said to Kaido of the Beasts, our people went to the sea to rescue people at the first time, but we couldn't find Master Yamato anyway, guess she might. Probably blown to pieces. Boom. A split second. Whether it's the phone bug, or that pirate. Even a large area of houses disappeared directly. You trash. What the hell are you eating? You can't even look down on a 9-year-old brat. The huge mace 8 fasts were thrown there heavily. Kaido of the Beasts, whose aura was incomparably tyrannical, and which looked like a ghost, sat there with his buttocks, spitting out his face, covering his eyes and weeping bitterly. Oh woo woo woo. Yamato. My precious son. Woo woo woo. No matter how ruthless he is, he keeps saying that even if Yamato is dead, he will not care. But when he really heard that his precious son had died. Even if a man like Kaido of the Beasts is not heartbroken, he still can't help but feel sad and outraged. After all, Yamato is his own flesh and blood. At least, at this time, Kaido is not completely disappointed with Yamato. A son, who awakened conqueror's haki at the age of 8, no matter how bad he grows up, he is believed to be not weak in combat power. Roar. A huge cyan dragon soared into the sky from the capital of flowers. Huge and incomparably hot flames flew out, directly burning up the huge general's mansion and even the large number of buildings in the capital of flowers in an instant. Thunderbolt. Woo hoo hoo. In an instant, it was on the sky. Dark clouds, lightning and thunder. Looking at the cyan dragon in the dark sky, the horrifying aura that covered the sky and covered the sun was overwhelming. Countless pirates, samurai, and civilians were all shocked, trembling and terrified. Kaido of the Beasts lost control of his emotions and went into a rage. Boom. When Kaido of the Beasts mistakenly thought that his son, Yamato, was dead, he went crazy in the capital of flowers, regardless of destroying everywhere. Wilhelm had already woken up at some point, and he used the ability of the healing fruit to heal the wounds all over his body, and Yamato, who was no longer bruised and swollen, quietly left the island of ghosts. In the Guri area of Wanokuni, within the site of Odin Castle. Joined Fingli, Miyamoto Musashi and the others. Master Wilhelm. Master, she is Shinobu and Miyamoto Musashi were a little surprised when they saw Yamato, who was sitting on the other shoulder of Wilhelm, who was carved with jade, just like Tanuki Pado. Wilhelm gave a brief introduction, but did not deliberately reveal the identity of Yamato, the daughter of Kaido of the Beasts. Her name is Yamato, she is my sister. Hello. Yamato sat on Wilhelm's right shoulder and greeted him happily. My name is Yamato. She is cheerful by nature, not timid like other children. Wilhelm big brother. Looking at the ruins full of traces of fire, Yamato suddenly said to Wilhelm. I have been here before, this is the Odin Castle built by Kuri Daimyo Kazuki Odin. A year ago, she had witnessed the city being ignited by a fire here. Also witnessed Kazuki Odin's son Momosuke being thrown from a height by her asshole dad Kaido of the Beasts. But because there was not enough strength to stop it, he failed to save the other party. Is that so? Wilhelm nodded with a chuckle. Shaoran, can your ability to ripen fruit make people grow up to 5 years in an instant? Wilhelm touched Yamato's small head and suddenly asked Shaoran. Shaoran was taken aback for a moment, but she didn't expect Wilhelm to know her familiar technique so well. But she shook her head directly, and said helplessly, no, if a person matures, it can only start in 10 years at most. Her familiar technique can indeed make a person mature instantly, but it must start in 10, 20, 30 years. Let her grow up for 10 years, Wilhelm pointed to Yamato. Huh? Yamato's eyes widened, a little confused. Don't you want to become an adult? Holding the thin Yamato in his arms, Wilhelm said persuasively. In this way, you don't have to be afraid that your father will find you, and you can go anywhere? Then Wilhelm big brother, I'm going to be an adult. Yamato's eyes lit up, staring at the stars, immediately full of anticipation, and said happily. Master Wilhelm, the price of growing up is directly losing 10 years of youth. This is equivalent to shortening her lifespan by 10 years. Isn't that too cruel? Xiao Ren's complexion changed, and he said a little bit unbearably. Wilhelm didn't explain much. There's no way, her identity is very special, in order to avoid being recognized by the Beast's pirates, this is the only way. Although there is the idea of not wanting the Beast's pirates to recognize Yamato. But more importantly, he didn't want to waste so much time slowly waiting for Yamato to grow up. If he grows directly for 10 years and crosses the developmental period, if he becomes a 19-year-old adult, with Yamato's monster talent inherited from Kaido of the Beasts, I believe that his strength will soon usher in an astonishing leap. If that's the case. Okay, is it possible to let people grow up directly for 10 years? Miyamoto Musashi was full of surprise. The civet cat Pado on Wilhelm's left shoulder was also jumping curiously. Turkey, very interesting ability. Not long. In an abandoned room. Only Yamato and Shinobu were inside. Wilhelm, Miyamoto Musashi and others were waiting outside. Shinobu, who was ready, put his hands on Yamato who was looking around curiously. Miss Yamato, I'm going to activate the shushu technique, please don't move around. Her face was solemn and full of seriousness. Facing Yamato directly, he activated the ability of ripe fruit. Brush, a burst of dazzling light flashed. The thin Yamato disappeared directly in front of her. Instead, there was a tall, handsome, young and beautiful woman. The two devil-like horns did not affect her beauty, and her brows were full of heroic spirit, with a unique style. Yamato, who was about 2 meters tall, looked at his perfect figure, and his innocent and pretty face was full of joy. It's really grown, it's amazing. Miss Yamato, these are Lord Wilhelm's clothes. Your height is almost the same as his, so it should be suitable. Shinobu handed Wilhelm's spare clothes to Yamato. He has been exercising unremittingly for many years, and the unimaginably terrible explosive power is hidden in Wilhelm's perfectly proportioned muscles. Even if it does not look as exaggerated as other strong people, it is still relatively strong. His clothes are relatively loose for Yamato, whose appearance has matured by 10 years in an instant, and now he has changed from 9 years old to 19 years old, and his body curve is a bit exaggerated. Not long. The two walked out of the dilapidated house. The white-haired, tall Yamato looked beautiful and heroic in Wilhelm's gorgeous casual clothes. Compared with the previous thin and small appearance, he is like a different person. It is estimated that standing in front of Kaido of the Beasts, nor could he necessarily recognize his daughter directly. Tisk tisk, I really grew up a year in an instant. Miyamoto Musashi was full of surprise, a little unbelievable. The civet cat Pado said to Wilhelm eagerly, civet he, boss, I want to grow bigger too. Wilhelm big brother, he jumped at Wilhelm undefended. Yamato squinted his crescent eyes, and hugged this big brother tightly, full of attachment and joy. I have become as big as you. Well, as expected of my younger sister, she became more beautiful and generous when she grew up. Looking at Yamato, who has grown up for 10 years and is already equivalent to 19 years old, Wilhelm smiled with satisfaction. Although the mind is not yet fully mature, but it's not a big problem, it just happens to be cultivated slowly, subtly taught and influenced. Everything is ready, it's time to leave. Wilhelm looked at Shinobu. So, are you going to leave with us? Although Kurozumi Orochi is dead, as long as Kaido remains in this country, Wano Kuni will never be able to be liberated. Xiao Ren smiled wryly. There was some sadness on that pretty face. Looking at the unbelievably handsome silver-haired boy in front of her, an inexplicable light flashed in her eyes, and she said firmly, Master Wilhelm, I intend to follow you. That's good. Wilhelm nodded. He doesn't care about Shinobu's strength itself. However, the ability of ripe fruit to directly grow people is indeed of great use to Wilhelm. Although, Wilhelm can completely borrow the ability of Pado's phantom beast, the raccoon form, and turn into a ninja. But it may not be able to effectively exert the powerful effect of the main body. In particular, since Yamato can grow for 10 years in an instant, is it possible to use the ability of ripe fruit to let the replicant soldiers created by cloning technology mature and go offline, greatly shortening the training time? Even with that ability, there are inevitably other limitations. At the end of the day, you can't use it too many times or something. Directly let ordinary clone soldiers mature and go offline in batches. But the pacifist that Dr. Hawkins will develop next can be used after all. For example, whether the ability to ripen fruit can make the cubs of those beasts directly grow up. Another example is the giant human body experiment, etc. Some special abilities are not necessarily suitable for combat. But it doesn't necessarily mean it can't play a huge role. The key is to see how to use it. Accompanied by Yamato's cry of surprise. After Snow Mastiff Fingley led everyone out of Wanakuna's waters. Through the transformation leaves of Pado the raccoon cat, a huge arc appeared in the sky. Yoho, that's great, this ship can actually fly in the air. With this arc, that is exactly the same as the proverb, Yamato, who has been extremely excited since leaving Wano Kuni, his eyes are even more shining, and he is running around with some curiosity. Although she already has an adult body, she still maintains a 9-year-old heart after all. Yamato, don't run around, be careful of falling. Wilhelm walked over and warned Yamato. Understood, Wilhelm big brother. Yamato nodded happily. However, the naive she quickly put William's words behind her. It was like a bird out of its cage, either pulling the tail of the snow mastiff Fingley there, or directly throwing Pado into the air, or running around on the arc like a bear. It made Wilhelm a little helpless, but he could only let it go. He is not going to give it to Yamato with the ability of the dog fruit, phantom beast species, and Oguchi true god form. Instead, I plan to find some time to go to Punk Hazard in the first half of New World. From the experimental base of the Marine Science Corps, get the artificial phantom beast devil fruit that was researched by the genius scientist Dr. Vegapunk using the gene extracted from Kaido of the beasts. Judging from the behavior of the future Momosuke after Punk Hazard accidentally ate it due to hunger, the artificial dragon fruit, phantom beast, and dragon form is obviously not a real failure. However, it is not necessarily a perfect and successful work. Although that Momosuke could directly transform into a giant dragon after eating it, it obviously failed to exert the same powerful effect as Kaido of the beast's fish fruit, phantom beast, and blue dragon form, the flying ability of flame cloud. But Yamato is different. She has the Kaido of the beasts in her veins. Maybe the DNA extracted from Kaido of the beasts can be perfectly matched with her, so that she can give full play to the ability of the artificial phantom beast. This is a conjecture by Wilhelm, although not necessarily accurate. But it's okay, give it a try. Anyway, there is still a chance to repent and start over. Big deal. When the time comes, he will find a way to find another devil fruit for Yamato that can match her outstanding talent. And this time, somewhere in West Blue, one looked gloomy and full of weirdness. It is called Ghost Island by the residents of nearby islands and even some navigators, and it is an island that turns pale when talking about it. A cloud, several meters wide and extremely white, floated from afar at a rather slow speed. Surprisingly, it has an anthropomorphic face. Although I have the general information provided by the Big Mom pirates, it's still a waste of time. Sitting on top of the homie's somersault cloud created by Wilhelm, Shiryu of the Rain looked at the gloomy island ahead and smiled. Finally found it. Yahahaha, is it finally here? Standing there with his arms folded, feathered serpent, Kull grinned his teeth. Stretching the muscles and bones there were bursts of crackling, explosions, which made people's scalp numb. Continuously rushing through the air, almost rusting. He rushed out a little impatiently. Gecko Moria, the shadow predator. Leave him to me. If you like to shoot, you can do whatever you want. Lighting a cigar unhurriedly, Shiryu of the Rain shrugged. Be careful. Don't destroy that castle. I believe Ryoma's body is probably inside. Looking at the castle on the distant island, his eyes were burning. Gecko Moria, who once challenged the Beasts pirates led by Kaido of the Beasts in New World and unfortunately suffered a disastrous defeat, is considered a strong player with a good reputation. But the swordsman he is really looking forward to is the dragon-slaying warrior, Shimotsuki Ryoma, who will be resurrected. That is the great swordsman who became famous hundreds of years ago. In that era. Thinking about it, this dragon-slaying warrior is not the world's #1 swordsman. Not far behind. Wu, a pair of feathered wings blew violent wind pressure. Feathered serpent Kur rushed directly to the island, and rushed towards the eye-catching huge castle in the center of the island. Boom. The earth split open directly, and a large cloud of smoke and dust billowed up. Feathered snake Kur looked sternly and ferociously, and yelled directly towards the castle. Gecko Moria, get out for lousy. Who? There are intruders. Quick, report to Lord Moria. For a while. The ghost island, which was originally quiet, became extremely noisy. A large number of scalp-numbing mummy were patrolling the island, screaming in panic, rushing over in 3s and 5s. Surrounded, feathered snake, Kur. Don't get in the way. No nonsense at all. The irascible feathered serpent Kur shot directly. Tall body, fast as lightning. Bang bang. Constant punches and kicks are dazzling. The terrifying explosive force directly caused those zombie-like mummies to fly upside down like cannonballs, breaking down towering giant trees and falling apart. He. Who are you? A black shadow about 6 or 7 meters tall, much taller than feathered serpent Kur, walked out of the castle. Gecko Moria is huge in stature, has a fiery hairstyle, pointed ears, and 2 horns on his forehead. He looks like a devil. What is striking is that he has cross-shaped sutures similar to suturing wounds from his forehead to his neck. A mouthful of sharp teeth, like a ghost. It's chilling. He was proud, looking directly down at feathered snake Kur. How dare you come to Lousy to make trouble? You are Moria. Looking at Moria in front of him, feathered serpent Kur was full of disappointment. What? It doesn't look very powerful. It's really disappointing. Bastard. How dare you underestimate Lousy? Moria's face was livid with anger, showing a murderous look. Some were furious, and shot directly. Shadow Mage. A black shadow rushed out from under his feet and rushed directly towards feathered serpent Kur. The ability to manipulate shadows to fight? Feathered snake Kur showed disdain. The huge fistprint is entwined with armed thunder energy. Unceremoniously, outrageously blasted out. Boom. Strong force. It directly blasted the black shadow into pieces. Boom. He stomped on his feet and rushed towards Moria in front of him. However, in an instant, sheer. Chirp. The torn black shadow turned into countless bats-like fluid, and flew over directly. Densely packed, with fangs and sharp teeth, biting towards him. Woo-hoo-hoo, a pair of wings vibrated violently. A series of violent wind blades tore apart the atmosphere. Like a hurricane, it swept in all directions, extremely sharp. Cut those shadow bats into pieces and make them look bad. Next, it's your turn. Feathered serpent Kur's face was ruthless, and his tall figure rushed directly in front of Gecko Moria, whose pupils shrank sharply. The pitch-black fistprint suddenly blasted over. Boom. Kang sparks splash. The sound of gold and iron clashing was extremely ear-piercing. The scissor-like blades are wrapped around Haki, and the crossblock is there. Having spent several years in the New World, he dared to challenge such strong players as Kaido of the Beasts. Even in the hands of a monster like Kaido, it suffered an unprecedented fiasco. But Gecko Moria is naturally not so vulnerable. Woo-hoo-hoo. The extremely violent wind pressure made it hard for people to open their eyes. Brush. The black shadows that were cut into tatters and looked like mud suddenly gathered together. It formed a black shadow exactly like Moria, holding 2 jet black shadow knives. Towards the feathered serpent that was fighting against Moria, he slashed hard. Sigh, chirp. Boom boom the eye-catching thunderlight illuminated the entire area, making it impossible for people to look directly at it. Gecko Moria used the ability of the shadow fruit to manipulate his own shadow to join the battle. The 2 figures directly and unceremoniously shot together, and directly and fiercely fought with feathered snake Kur. Is that the ability of shadow fruit? High in the air. Shiryu of the rain above Somersault Cloud, looking down from there. Focusing on the battle between the feathered serpent Kur and Moria. It is indeed difficult to deal with. It is equivalent to having an avatar that will not be injured and is not afraid of death, and it can also keep in touch with the main body at all times. Of course, he wasn't worried. Although Moria's ability is difficult to deal with, it can't hurt the feathered serpent Kur at all. Defeat is a matter of time. Directly let the Somersault Cloud land on the castle. Sneaked inside. Clang, before the castle. The cold light shone, and the sound of breaking through the air continued. The extremely sharp blade slashed fiercely on the arms of the feathered serpent Kur wrapped around Haki and blocked there. The huge force made Gecko Moria feel his tiger's mouth go numb, and the blade almost fell out of his hand. Moria changes color. This monster. The opponent's armament Haki is simply harder than steel. In his mind, some bad memories could not help but emerge. As if, I was once again facing that unreasonably powerful monster, Kaido of the beasts. An astonishing electric current flowed directly along the blade. Moria's arms were instantly numb from the electric shock, and her complexion changed. The first time he stormed out. Hey, it's late. Feathered Snake Kur grinned grimly, surrounded by astonishing electric light. The fist print covered the incomparably tyrannical armament Haki, and slammed on Moria's body. Boom. Between electric light and flint. Moria exchanges with her own shadow. Let his own shadow take the place of death to survive that terrible blow. And his shadow was blown to pieces in an instant. Shave. Observation Haki locked onto Moria's breath. Almost without thinking, feathered serpent Kur stomped on his feet. The whole person galloped like lightning, directly in front of Moria. Like a knife and axe, the right leg tore through the atmosphere fiercely and hit Moria's body. Boom. Binocular protruding. The pain couldn't stop coming, and Moria screamed. There, he vomited blood, and flew out like cannonballs. Damn it. His eyes were tearing apart, and he stared at Kur, the feathered snake. The ferocious figure on the opposite side was looming, as if he was with someone with horns, who looked like a devil, and was overwhelming. The tall and angry figures overlapped. It was like returning to Wanakuna's nightmare again, which gave him too much pain and despair, and made Moria unwilling to recall the battlefield. His eyes were filled with terrifying bloodshot eyes, and filled with endless resentment and unwillingness. He yelled hysterically. Kaido, boom. Smoke and dust were flying. A big tree was knocked down in the middle. Moria flew straight tens of meters. The earth collapsed, cracked, and spider web-like cracks appeared there. Brush. At this moment, District Snake, Kur grinned. With a sudden movement of his body, he brought up a gust of hurricane, and quickly rushed into the forest. Observation Haki locked down Gecko Moria. Open Sen Ran's big mouth directly. The lightning flashed, and the terrifying thunderlight condensed there at a speed visible to the naked eye. Who? In an instant, a piercing sound pierced through the air. An incomparably dazzling beam of thunder blasted towards Moria viciously. Boom. Suddenly, a pitch-black shadow looms. Like a shield, it stood firmly in front of Gecko Moria. Moria, who escaped unharmed, rushed out of the ruins immediately. Damn. He was so embarrassed that he glared viciously at Kur, the feathered serpent who was rushing towards him, a little furious. A sharp voice shouted there, Shadow Gathering Place. Ah. Don't, Goliath. Damn it, the shadows are gone. In the forest, those zombie soldiers screamed. In the blink of an eye, a large number of shadows came from all directions. 100, 200, 300, 400. Pulling away the shadows of all the zombie soldiers in an instant, Moria gathered and absorbed a large number of shadows, and her body continued to grow huge and inflated. 500 people. Absorb those shadows to enhance your combat power? Feathered Snake, Kur sneered. He. Moria looked like a titan and was no less than 10 meters tall. The whole person exudes an incomparably terrifying aura, where he grinned strangely and ran out brazenly. The speed is several times faster than before. The huge fist, carrying extremely violent power, violently rubbed against the atmosphere, and slammed towards Feathered Serpent, Kur fiercely. Go to hell with me. Yahahaha, it finally looks a bit like Thunderfist. Feathered Serpent Kur was full of fighting spirit, smiling excitedly. Wisps of electric light flickered and jumped, his muscles tensed, and the veins in his right arm bulged. Wrapped around Armament Haki's fist, intertwined with strong and eye-catching electric light, it was unbelievably blazing, and its momentum was terrifying. Without fear, the atmosphere was suddenly torn apart. He punched directly. Boom. The loud noise shook the sky. The violent force collided, triggering a violent explosion wave. Woo, the wind was raging, and rocks were flying. The land with a radius of hundreds of meters was directly cracked and collapsed. The cracks in all directions are dense and shocking. You can't get close at all, and it makes your scalp tingle. If it wasn't for the two of them fighting, they would have already left the castle. I'm afraid that the huge castle will be affected at this moment and collapse directly. Yahahaha. Let me be more excited, Leah, accompanied by Feathered Serpent Kewer's wild laughter. The two people, one big and one small, once again clashed fiercely, constantly colliding with each other. Bang bang. Boom boom. Woo hoo hoo. The surrounding land continued to collapse. Waves of astonishing airwaves continued to sweep through. The towering giant trees swayed to and fro, and were directly crushed by the strong wind pressure. But it didn't last long. Moria's tall figure flew upside down in embarrassment. His fists convulsed, trembling violently, he stared unwillingly at Kewer, the feathered serpent squares in front of him. Damn. Obviously, the strength gap between the two cannot be made up by simply devouring the shadows of hundreds of people. Woohoo. But in a blink of an eye, it was accompanied by a violent hurricane. The feathered serpent Kewer with two wings on its back was so fast that it killed like lightning. Yahahaha, why are you only at this level? Lightning flashes, eye-catching fist prints. He mercilessly bombarded Moria, who was caught off guard. Boom. Bodge. Moria vomited blood, turned her eyes white, and screamed there. A large number of shadows directly separated from his body, like a leaking balloon. The moment the huge body flew out, it shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boom. Woo hoo hoo. Smoke and dust rose all over the sky. The earth trembled, and it was dilapidated. Incomparably strong airwaves continued to rage in all directions. Not long. The figure of Shiryu of the Rain rushed out from the castle. On his right hand, he carried a mummy in a cloth bag, and besides the famous sword Leiyu, there was an extra knife at his waist. On the shoulders, there is also a little girl who has passed out and is about 5 or 6 years old. Cloud, Cloud, I am Somersault Cloud. In midair, the anthropomorphic Somersault Cloud sang a song and floated down happily. How? Shiryu grinned as he bit his cigar. He looked at Feathered Serpent, Kewer, who was holding the leg of Gecko Moria, who didn't know whether he was alive or dead, with one hand, dragging his tall and bulky body. Yahahaha, it really took a bit of effort. Feathered Snake, Kewer threw Gecko Moria directly onto the Somersault Cloud, and patted the dust on his body. He licked his lips there, and said darkly, but he has to be handcuffed with sea stone, otherwise, with his weird ability, he might slip away from our noses after waking up. Is this brat also an ability user? He noticed the little girl carried by Shiryu of the Rain. Don't worry, I brought a few sea stone handcuffs with me before I set off. Shiryu of the Rain puffed out a puff of smoke, and said, if Master Wilhelm hadn't reminded you in advance to be careful of those weird ability users, you would have almost fallen into this brat's way. Paramecia Ghost Fruit. What a weird ability, it can actually make one's soul separate from the body, it's really exaggerated. He was a little lucky. Wilhelm had warned him over and over again. Don't underestimate those enemies who look harmless and pose no threat just because you have some strength. Even if he is a weakling, once the other party has some strange abilities, if he is too careless, maybe it will be over if he is touched by the other party. Brush. At this time, in the astonished eyes of Shiryu of the Rain, Feathered Serpent Kewer seemed to feel something, and his whole body moved. The right hand was grabbed like lightning. Ah, a scream came out. A thin, transparent figure gradually appeared there. The big hand of Feathered Snake, Kewer firmly wrapped around his neck. Grabbing the opponent mercilessly, he slammed into the ground hard. Boom, the ground collapsed and rocks sputtered. That thin figure, that is, Moria's subordinate, has not yet been transformed at this time, and Absalom, who has not been transplanted with those beast organizations, screamed pitifully there. He vomited blood profusely, and his eyes protruded. Full of terror. Huh? Shiryu raised an eyebrow. Looking at Feathered Snake's hand, he was a little surprised at this completely invisible figure that could be directly invisible just now. Yahahaha, creatures like snakes don't judge enemies just by their sight. Feathered Snake, Kewer grinned grimly. He grabbed the thin, half-dead figure covered in blood. The snake-like gloomy gaze made Absalom shudder, frightened and restless. Looking down at the other party, he sneered and said, although you can be invisible, the heat from your body can't fool me. Hey, it's actually able to become invisible. Is it the legendary transparent fruit? After kicking the emaciated young man with bruised nose and swollen face, Shiryu Yuji smiled strangely while biting his cigar. It's really the ability that men dream of. Early morning. Sunny. 4 or 5 days of work. The huge arc was on its way one after another. During this period, Wilhelm directly used the electricity stored in his body to charge the Ark to ensure its battery life. Finally successfully reached the Toto land waters. Raftel? Wilhelm sat on the side of the boat, looking at the choppy sea. With a calm face and no waves, he murmured to himself, "It's really a big, big joke." On that stern face, the corners of his lips curled up, revealing a sarcasm. "Joey boy. Ridiculous fatalism." Over the past few days, he has learned all the truth about the final island, Raftel, directly from Miyamoto Musashi, who has inherited all the memories of Kazuki Oden. But he, Charlotte Wilhelm, will never put any hope on the ridiculous prophecy and future. He has his own ambitions and his own goals. No matter what the future holds, no matter what the so-called fate is, no matter whether the so-called gods really exist, he will not be shaken in any way. He will only take one step at a time, relying on his own talent, wisdom, strength, and hard work. Unswervingly continue to move forward until he steps on the top of the real strong and ascends to the supreme void throne. Become the world's strongest, in the true sense, truly above everything. Is this rain really cotton candy? It's incredible. Wow. So sweet, so soft, so good. Beaver it's so interesting here. In the white sky, it rained cotton candy. The dreamlike fairy tale scene shocked Tanuki Pado, Yamato, Shinobu and others, as if they were in a dream. The exception is Miyamoto Takeshi, who inherited the memory of Kazuki Oden. Kazuki Oden in the past has been to too many places and experienced many strange adventures. Pretty shocked. Master Wilhelm, welcome home safely. Finally, the voyage ends at Juice Island in the waters of Toto Land. A large number of homies and the pirates of the Big Mom pirate group cheered and jumped for joy. The leader was Katakori, who was tall and calm, covering half of his face, and the three Smoothie Sisters. Welcome back, Wilhelm. Katakori looked at Miyamoto Musashi with a serious gaze. Looking deeply at Wilhelm, he was amazed. It's really you, brother Wilhelm. Right now, Naval Headquarters is about to complete the formation of the expedition fleet that is being intensively prepared. The battle is imminent, and he, the strongest general of the Charlotte family and the Minister of Flour, was originally in the center of the Toto Land Sea area, where the headquarters of the Big Mom Pirates was in charge of coordinating the next war. A sudden call from Wilhelm made him have to come here. Unexpectedly, the other party gave him such a big surprise. Except for that Shiryu of the Rain and Kuer the Feathered Snake. Bring back a guy with amazing strength. Katakori big brother, Smoothie sister, strong sister, Snaeman sister. On the port of Juice Island, Wilhelm greeted with a smile. I didn't expect you all to come here. As he spoke, he pointed at Yamato, Shinobu, Miyamoto Musashi, Tanuki Pado, etc. Briefly introduce the three Smoothie Sisters and Katakori to members of the Charlotte family. Hello. Yamato stepped forward, bowed happily and said, My name is Yamato, from Wanokuni. Sister Yamato, Wilhelm has already told me about you. Smoothie looked at the handsome and charming Yamato, stepped forward to hold her little hand enthusiastically, and said with a smile, From today onwards, you will be our sister. If Wilhelm hadn't mentioned it, she wouldn't have believed it. This innocent-looking girl with horns on her head is actually the daughter of Kaido of the Beasts. Moreover, he was only 9 years old at first, but his ability to ripen fruit was used, and he instantly grew 10 years old, turning into 19 years old. It's exaggerated. Ah, is this the child bride you brought back, Wilhelm? Snaeman on the side pressed the long sword at his waist with one hand, looked up and down at Yamato, and said teasingly there. Strawn couldn't help but blinked, and said with a light smile, Don't even mention it, it's a bit like it. Nonsense. Nonsense, that's right. Yamato heard the words. That beautiful and heroic face was flushed red all of a sudden. As if it was smoldering, there seemed to be heat steaming, and his face was unbelievably hot. She bowed her head shyly there, pinching the corner of her clothes with her little hands that had nowhere to rest. But he still couldn't help but touch his head quietly, and his big, agile eyes glanced at him. She glanced at Wilhelm's knife-like heroic face, which was so handsome that she couldn't bear to look away. Sister Snaeman, Sister Strong, stop joking. Yamato is still a child. Wilhelm was a little helpless, patted Yamato's head with his big hand, and signaled her not to care. And Shinobu and Miyamoto Musashi are simple and direct. Little girl Shinobu, Miyamoto Musashi, I have met you adults. Beaver, I'm Pado. Are these the surprises you gave me? Nodding to Yamato, Miyamoto Musashi, Tanuki Pado and others, Katakori looked at Wilhelm. That rough-faced samurai named Miyamoto Musashi really gave him an extremely dangerous feeling and made him instinctively vigilant. There are 2 famous knives on Shandan's waist. Their appearance is extremely extraordinary. They are definitely rare famous knives in the world. No, it's something else. Wilhelm chuckled with a deep meaning. Katakuri raised an eyebrow involuntarily. After the brief introduction, let everyone get to know each other. The group did not stop at the port, but went directly to Juice Island, a castle belonging to the three Smoothie sisters. In the magnificent hall, let the two sisters Snamen and Strong take Yamato, Miyamoto Musashi, Shinobu, Pado and others down to settle down. Only Wilhelm, Smoothie and Katakuri were left. Now, can you tell me? Katakuri asked helplessly. You made too much trouble this time, but the marine side is almost ready, and we also need to make complete preparations and wait for it. Don't be so anxious. You can leave those trivial matters to Brother Perispero first. Anyway, he has always been very good at this aspect. Those who can do more work. Sitting on the sofa, Wilhelm shrugged. The eldest son of the Charlotte family, Perispero, has a clear mind and is not lacking in strategy. He is a good talent. Compared with having general talent, Katakuri is more suitable for killing enemies and charging on the front line. On weekdays, he is responsible for advising Charlotte Linlin and acting as a military advisor. The big and small affairs of the Big Mom Pirates, whether it is intelligence or other aspects, can be handled in an orderly manner. Although it is still unavoidable that he was born as a pirate, he has an arrogant and domineering personality, some frivolous conceits, short-sightedness, lack of overall view and other defects, but in general the flaws are not concealed. Katakuri Big Brother, this is a gift from Wilhelm for you. At the behest of Wilhelm, Smoothie sent the Logia air fruit that had been prepared to Katakuri, and said with a smile, this is Logia air fruit, which is one of the top Logia abilities in the world. Logia? Katakuri's pupils narrowed sharply. He didn't expect that in addition to the 20 or so devil fruits that he had handed in, Wilhelm also had the ability to collect Logia air fruits in private, which was really amazing. It's not surprising. Who in the huge Charlotte family doesn't have a little thought? Even that big brother Perispero, intentionally or unintentionally, often pretends to be the first heir of the Charlotte family in front of other Charlotte family brothers and sisters, repeatedly emphasizing that he is the eldest son and elder brother of the Charlotte family. Do you want to weaken his prestige as the strongest general as much as possible, and subtly enhance his influence in the Big Mom Pirates? These are obviously unavoidable. As long as it is not directly betraying the family, doing something that is not good for the family. Katakuri is not unacceptable to such a thing, he turns a blind eye and turns a blind eye. Such a gift is indeed very precious. You can give me such a Logia ability. As an elder brother, I am very happy, and I am also very grateful to have a younger brother like you. Katakuri, who quickly recovered from the shock, looked at Wilhelm sitting there, feeling a little warm in his heart. Some helplessly said, but Brother Wilhelm, I'm already an ability user, you won't let me eat it, will you? I'll just say it straight. Wilhelm stood up and cut straight to the point. I can strip your Paramecia Nuo fruits ability without actually dying, so that you can choose other devil fruit abilities again. What? Katakuri's pupils narrowed sharply. Looking at Wilhelm dully, he couldn't believe it. Are you sure you're not joking? Katakuri's big brother, Wilhelm's ability to transfer fruit, even the demon, can be directly transferred. Smoothie chuckled, and introduced to the shocked Katakuri. It doesn't matter is it my thunder fruit, or Strom's jumping fruit, both of which he deprived and transferred from the capable person. Unbelievable. So that's how it is. Katakuri was a little restless. Looking at Wilhelm in front of him, he suppressed the shock in his heart, and said in a deep voice, I'm starting to believe it. Generally speaking, normal people can't be so lucky. I can meet again and again the devil fruit known as the secret treasure of the sea, which has a price but no market, and can be encountered but not sought after. Deep gaze. Katakuri's thoughts turned. The other devil fruits are easy to say, and they can also be attributed to being stolen from the world government during the infiltration into Marie Joy's. But Smoothie still has the abilities of Strong and the others, and even the bird fruit on the mount. But it was exactly what Wilhelm had found before. Wait. Thinking of something, his expression froze. Staring at this somewhat familiar yet unfamiliar younger brother, he asked directly, Wilhelm, you must have broken into Impel Down before, right? In the gorgeous hall. Katakuri stared deeply at Wilhelm, and said in a deep voice, I remember that you stayed in the first half of the Grand Line for a long time, and after you guys just built the Ark Proverb. Unfortunately, Shiryu of the Rain, the chief warden of Impel Down, is said to have defected because he was afraid of being held accountable by the world government for killing prisoners indiscriminately. However, within a few days, Smoothie told me that he directly subdued Shiryu of the Rain, who was offered a reward of 500 million berries by Marine. From the very beginning, when Smoothie reported to himself that Wilhelm had tamed Shiryu, the former guard of Impel Down, with a bounty of 500 million baileys, Katakuri felt it was very strange. Why is it that Shiryu of the Rain, the majestic guardian of Impel Down, suddenly gave up his high position and defected, and was just offered a reward by Marine, but suddenly followed Wilhelm in the blink of an eye. With Wilhelm's calmness and prudence, he would never easily believe in a strong man like Shiryu Rain who came over from the world government. The indiscriminate killing of criminals is just what the world government says, and no one can say that it is a spy directed and acted by the world government and sent to infiltrate the Big Mom pirate group. There is only one possibility. If nothing else happened, Wilhelm would have sneaked into the deep-sea prison in all likelihood. With Wilhelm's own strength and the terrifying ability to transfer fruits, he can do it without anyone noticing. If it is really possible to peel off the ability of Devil Fruit's powers. Maybe, with Wilhelm's bold and unscrupulous character, he really dared to do this. After all, he even dared to invade Marie Joy's, the center of the world government and the residence of the celestial dragons. What else dare not? Sure enough, I can't hide it from you. Neither did Wilhelm deny it, because Fang admitted it. After gaining a deep understanding of his ability to transfer fruits, he would sooner or later be unable to hide the fact that he had sneaked into the impel down from Katakuri, the wise men of the Charlotte family. Smoothie at the side couldn't help being a little stunned, and said full of admiration, "As expected of you, Katakuri big brother, I didn't expect you to guess it so soon." Asterisk. Katakuri suddenly looked at this younger brother who had perfectly inherited their mother Charlotte Linland's monster talent, and also had the blood of the fur tribe. It can be said that he is very talented and always independent. Feel a little incredible. So, Katakuri big brother, do you want to try it? Wilhelm stared at Katakuri, and said bluntly, "To be honest, although the special Paramecia ability like Nuo fruit is not bad, even if it is awakened, the upper limit is still there. Logia air fruit is different. As one of the top Logia abilities, its performance in all aspects is not necessarily worse than that of Smoothie's sister Thunder fruit. It has the potential to make you step into the ranks of monsters. Katakuri big brother, with your outstanding talent, you may not be able to become one of the top powerhouses in the sea in the future." You say that all of a sudden, my mind is a little messed up. Take a deep breath. He stared deeply at Wilhelm, the 22nd son of the Charlotte family. Katakuri tried his best to calm down the turmoil in his heart, and said with some hesitation, "Especially when the battle with Marine and those guys is about to start, it's hard for me to make such a decision for a while." Have to say. Facing Wilhelm's repeated guidance. There are also top-level abilities like Logia air fruit. He was indeed moved unavoidably, but he still tried his best to keep calm. As an ability user of Paramecia Nuo fruit, he is naturally more aware of the defects of Nuo fruit than Wilhelm. He can indeed rely on the rather weak armament hockey to make the sperm balls he created harder, and can easily crush those invading pirates. Relatively speaking, the waxy fruit is not weak. But that has to be compared with what ability? The awakened Paramecia Nuo fruit seems to give him a powerful attack method. But when it comes to those monsters that are really powerful in Shanghai, that little attack power is not enough at all. At least, right now, Katakuri doesn't think at all that he can stop his mother, Big Mom, for a long time under the current situation of going all out. With Kotaku Chestnut Big Brother's talent, even if you give up the ability of Nuo fruit, I believe that with rich experience, you can adapt and master the ability of Logia air fruit in the shortest possible time. Wilhelm laughs, especially when you have observation hockey who can briefly see into the future. The elemental ability of Logia air fruit, and the terrifying speed that it bestows in short-distance bursts, almost like teleportation, are just perfect for you. How? Do you want to think about it? Okay. Under the guidance of Wilhelm. After careful consideration and weighing, and based on unconditional trust in Wilhelm, the younger brother. Facing the temptation of Logia air fruit, the top Logia ability, Katakuri finally made a decision. After all, no matter what, those amazing monsters in the sea. Except for a handful of people, all of them have powerful devil fruit abilities. From Sengoku of the Admiral of Headquarters Buddha, the person who is the fruit of human beings, phantom beasts, and the ability of the Buddha form. In recent years, the three who have gained fame in Marine are said to have been listed as candidates for Admiral by the Marine executives. Vice Admiral, Akainu, Kizaru, and Aokiji. All of them are top Logia ability users. Then to those famous big pirates in New World. Possesses the ability of Paramecia shock fruit, can easily cause earthquakes and tsunamis, and is known as the world's strongest man, Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, who can destroy the world. And then to Kaido, the beast, who has the ability to form fish and fish fruits, phantom beasts, and blue dragons. And my own mother, who has the ability of Paramecia soul fruit, can directly deprive other people's souls, create strange and special homies life at will, and is also a natural monster, with extremely tough skin. Mother, Big Mom, who is as invulnerable as a steel balloon. Charlotte Linland. Both have powerful devil fruit abilities. Who wants to be mediocre if they can go one step further? Even if he may not be able to reach the heights of Whitebeard and Big Mom, he has been undisputedly recognized as the strongest man in the world, and the strongest woman in the world. But after possessing the ability of Logia Air Fruit, will Katakuri be worse than Naval Headquarters Admiral candidates in the future? Thinking of this, Katakuri, who has a decisive temperament, no longer hesitates, looking forward and backward. Staring deeply at Wilhelm, he said in a deep voice, "I believe in you, my life is left to you, Wilhelm." Wilhelm got up, smiled lightly and said, "I think you will never regret it." Smoothie couldn't help chuckling. "I'm really looking forward to it." Soon, Smoothie led Wilhelm and Katakuri to the room at the corner of the hall. "Keep watch outside by yourself so that no one will disturb you. Are you ready? There is no turning back when you open the bow." Looking at Katakuri lying there, Wilhelm shrugged. "Even if it's time, I can return the ability of Nuo Fruit to you. You may not be able to directly exert the power of awakening. You need to spend time training and developing it. There's nothing to say, just take it as a gamble, come on." Katakuri is crisp. In a blink of an eye, Wilhelm, who didn't say any more, made a direct shot. Katakuri, who was mentally prepared, was beautifully killed. While transferring the ability of Paramisha Nunuo Fruit from its corpse, it also uses the ability of Wangchen Fruit to freeze its body and soul. Then, he used the soul power plundered from homies as the price of consumption, and used the ability of Paramisha Healing Fruit to save the dead Katakuri back to life. After one set, the clouds and water flow smoothly, and the field is clean and neat. "Who?" Looking at the recovered Katakuri, Wilhelm asked with a faint smile, "How about experiencing the feeling of death?" "Bad experience, it's really a big gamble." He touched his heart that seemed to be in pain. Touching the cold sweat on his head, Katakuri, who had lingering fears in his heart, let out a long breath of foul breath. The kind of desperate and powerless suffocation before death, as well as the endless darkness. I want to experience it once. Enough. If it weren't for the 100% trust in Wilhelm's younger brother. Once there is a slight mistake, it is not just as simple as losing the ability of Devil Fruit. My own life is over just like that. Finally, there is no danger. This is your glutinous fruit. I think you should have seen it. You can safely eat that air fruit. Pointing to the reborn fruit that was transferred to the prepared fruit Paramisha Waxy Fruit, Wilhelm said with a smile. Unbelievable, it is indeed the waxy fruit. Katakuri looked at the reborn waxy fruit, a little amazed. Looking at the lower half of Katakuri's face deliberately covered with a scarf, Wilhelm suggested directly, "How about I use the ability of healing fruits to remove the scars on your face?" Swipe. Katakuri raised his head. With incomparably sharp eyes, he fixed his eyes on this handsome younger brother who made him feel a little jealous sometimes. But Wilhelm didn't flinch, his golden eyes calmly looked at the hottest general of the Charlotte family. There was a long silence. The tightly clenched fist slowly loosened. As if discouraged, Katakuri gave a helpless wry smile. "You know everything?" "I knew it from the beginning. Although I said that there is no need to care about other people's opinions, but anyway, if I can be more handsome, I think you should not refuse." Wilhelm shrugged. Did not mean to mock each other. "Well, it would be great if you could get rid of those scars." Katakuri nodded without refusing. Even if he can really be unwilling to care about other people's opinions, he can't stop the worldly prejudice. If he could look a little more normal, who the hell would want to be a monster that people hate and dogs hate? Then I'll be blunt. Keep your mouth open. Immediately afterwards, Wilhelm was in Katakuri's slightly sweaty gaze. Swinging the incomparably sharp cluster cloud teeth like lightning, he directly sliced all his ugly fangs flat. And used the ability of Paramisha Healing Fruit to help the second son of the Charlotte family heal the scars on his face perfectly. Let the strongest general of the Charlotte family truly become a perfect general who is cold, handsome and powerful. It is indeed fully recovered. Take the mirror from Wilhelm. Looking at the face above that was no different from a normal person, it was familiar and unfamiliar to him. Once because I liked eating donuts too much, I opened my mouth too much, causing the mouth to split, leaving the two shocking scars, and the natural fangs, has disappeared. Katakuri couldn't help but smile. He looked at the younger brother Wilhelm with some gratitude. "Thank you, Wilhelm. We're a family. Why say thank you?" Wilhelm chuckled and said, "Didn't you, Katakuri big brother, take care of me all these years?" He took the Logia air fruit and handed it to the other party. "Eat it. Then I won't be polite." Katakuri, who was tall and about 5 meters tall, opened his mouth directly. Grabbing the small air fruit compared to his wide palm, he swallowed it whole at once. After all, it's been too long, and I'm not used to not covering it with a scarf. Although healed by Wilhelm, Katakuri no longer needs to deliberately cover up to maintain his perfect image as the strongest star of the Charlotte family. But he still habitually pulled up the scarf to cover the lower half of his face. By the way, if you have time, I hope you can help Bree get rid of the scars on her face. Katakuri thought of something, and said to Wilhelm seriously. The eighth daughter of the Charlotte family, Bree, is the eternal pain in his heart. In the past, because of his ugly face, he didn't care about other people's opinions at all. Anyone who dared to laugh at him would be severely beaten by him with his powerful strength. As a result, the other party took revenge on his family because of resentment. The first person to be implicated was Bree, who was scratched on the face and left an indelible scar. Katakuri has always harbored guilt towards this younger sister. Of course, I was going to do it, we are family after all. That would be the best, Katakuri smiled. For Wilhelm, who is indifferent, always independent, and doing his own way. Over the years, for the development and growth of the Charlotte family, he has fought here and there, and he has done his best in silence. It can be said that he has worked hard, and Katakuri, who has dedicated himself, can't help but feel a little worried in his eyes. Although their mother kept saying that Wilhelm is her most perfect masterpiece, she will be her right-hand man in the future. But Katakuri is keenly aware that Wilhelm, who has always been unrestrained and arrogant, is by no means a character who is willing to be subordinate to others and be at the mercy of others. I have been vaguely worried about some irreconcilable conflict between Wilhelm and Charlotte Linlin in the future. But seeing this younger brother does not have any barriers and rejections for other brothers and sisters in the Charlotte family. His elder brother still felt indescribably relieved and happy. After all, they are always a family. Maybe my worries are just unfounded worries. Wilhelm, Katakuri big brother, waiting at the door. With a huge network of hearts, Smoothie, who had already absorbed the conversation between Wilhelm and Katakuri, said with some joy, "It seems to be a success." Thanks to Wilhelm, Katakuri nodded with a smile. Without warning, the whole person disappeared in place. In an instant, he had quietly appeared behind Smoothie. As if it could really teleport. Have you gotten used to it so quickly? Sure enough, this fruit is very suitable for you, Katakuri big brother. Seeing this scene, Wilhelm raised his eyebrows and smiled lightly. Katakuri, who once developed the special Paramecia Numo fruit to the awakening stage, can also wax the body and change the shape at will, almost instinctively used the elementalization of the Logia air fruit. It is not as unfamiliar as other ability users who have just acquired the devil fruit ability, and they still need to constantly explore. Even some people in the early stages of the can't effectively control their own history at all. As expected of Katakuri's big brother, it's amazing. Relying on Shinwang's prediction, Smoothie, who was completely unresponsive, turned around and couldn't help but admire sincerely. Although she, an ability user of Logia Thunderfruit, can react well, but now she is only 16 years old after all, and the strength difference between the two is too great. If it is a real fight, once Katakuri is fully familiar with the ability of Logia Air Fruit, maybe it can directly crush the current Smoothie. Brush. Blessed to the soul. Raised the right arm, directly elementalized. The whole right hand gradually drifted away like smoke. But as soon as the thought moved, it was directly condensed and turned into a solid body in a blink of an eye. Call out. Katakuri's eyes narrowed, with one flick. Boom. There was a loud roar through the air. Visible to the naked eye, a fingernail-sized, imperceptible airwave shot out. It was almost an instant, and there was no reaction at all. The thick and solid wall in front was easily torn and pierced by the fingernail like airblade. Hey, Katakuri big brother, although I can understand that you just acquired a powerful ability, and you can't wait to verify and try it out, but don't be too messy. Smoothie was amazed. Rolling his eyes, he said helplessly, I'm afraid that if you are not careful, you will directly tear down this little nest of mine. Sorry, Smoothie, I got too excited for a while. Katakuri reacted. He sincerely apologized to Smoothie. Looking at Katakuri's performance just now, Wilhelm said, with the experience of mastering the ability of Nuo fruit, although I have just begun to acquire the ability of air fruit, it is not too difficult to control it. Indeed, after all, the waxy fruit ability I had before, as a special Paramecia ability, itself has some characteristics of the Logia ability. Some similar methods, as long as you get a little familiar with them, you can use them directly like before. Katakuri nodded. Feel the perfect power that is gradually coming up in the body. He couldn't help showing a satisfied smile, but I have to say, Logia air fruit is indeed an amazing ability. There was nothing wrong with my choice. A top-level Logia ability like the air fruit is indeed much stronger than that Paramecia Nuo fruit. Even the waxy fruit in the awakened state is far inferior. Katakuri is totally sure. If you give yourself a few days, relying on the advantage of being a Paramecia Nuo fruit, awakening, Stage ability person. You can completely master the ability of Logia Air Country Realm directly. The combat power that can be displayed at that time will surely surpass him who had the Paramecia Nuo fruit before. This is a natural advantage of fruit ability. There are no waste fruits, only waste abilities. This sentence is just those strong people who have good strength but are really unlucky and failed to obtain the powerful devil fruit ability, just comforting themselves. A most common zone ability, compared with the ability of Logia Sparkling Fruit. If you let the same person spend the same amount of time exercising. In the end, the fighting power displayed is stronger or weaker. It's easy to tell. The three of them quickly came to the hall and sat down one after another. Wilhelm, who was sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed, said to Katakuri, "Even if the formation of Marine's large expedition fleet is completed, it will take a few days to reach the waters of Toto Land, not so fast. In the past few days, Katakuri Big Brother, take the time to familiarize yourself with the abilities of Logia Air Fruit, and I may still need you to cooperate with my plan." "Oh? What's the plan?" Smoothie, Katakuri and the others looked at Wilhelm in surprise. "Since Marine spares no effort to organize a large fleet to go deep into the New World expedition, our Big Mom pirates naturally have to do a good job in hospitality." Wilhelm crossed his fingers and said with a sneer. A murderous intent flashed across those incomparably cold eyes. There are two kinds of elusive and unpredictable space-type abilities, transfer fruit and door-to-door fruit. If they find the right timing and cooperate with each other, even the most powerful monster, as long as he is a little careless, Wilhelm can trap him alive in the different space. This time, if we can't take advantage of Marine's unpreparedness, we can keep one or two powerful monsters. "I'm sorry for the storm," he deliberately set off. "You don't seem to be worried at all." Katakuri's face was full of solemnity, and he said in a deep voice, "You know, according to our information, the Marine side will send an admiral who represents the highest combat power of the naval headquarters to the rear admiral. Maybe even the legendary Marine hero, the legendary sailor, Iron Fist, Garp, who once pushed Roger the Pirate King into desperation several times, may be dispatched. Although they are pirates. As a last resort, even if you just abandon the old nest, there is no problem. But in the Toto Land Sea area, Charlotte Linlin has been in charge of this sea area on behalf of the Rocks Pirates as the top cadre of the Rocks Pirates since the Rocks era. And after the downfall of the pirate overlord Rocks D. Zebek. With the disbandment of the Rocks Pirates, Charlotte Linlin directly established the Big Mom Pirates, firmly entrenched in the Toto land waters, and became the veritable owner of this place. Today, their Charlotte family has been operating here for nearly 30 years. It's not that you can give up if you give up. Marine's aggressive approach this time is not just about putting on a show to save face for the world government. Maybe I really want to wipe out the Big Mom pirate group in one fell swoop, completely conquer the waters of Toto Land, expand a new base in New World and garrison a large number of troops, use this as a springboard to return to New World, and let Marine's influence deepen again. This paradise of pirates further deters those in New World who are eager to move, coveting the sea hegemony that naval headquarters has firmly held for hundreds of years, and trying to challenge Marine's unshakable sea hegemony. The big pirates are no longer limited to the entrance of the first half of New World. Don't worry, the Marine that has stood for hundreds of years does have a deep foundation, and the status of the overlord of the sea is hard to shake, but it doesn't mean that you can't cut a few pieces of flesh from them, and slowly bleed them. Wilhelm's face remained unchanged. His eyes are wise, and his wisdom is in his hands. He said lightly, "No matter how cautious the world government and Marine are, they will never come out in full force. With my ability, combined with your General Xing and Ru Wu's strength, as long as you plan properly, they will not react at all. If you find the right time to kill one or two, you may not be able to do it. In the worst case, I can force them to compromise and retreat in desperation. Considering naval headquarters and the G5 fortress, there must always be someone sitting in the fort. It is expected that naval headquarters will not really come out." In the spacious and bright hall, with a calm face, Wilhelm sat on the sofa with his legs crossed. There, Katakuri and Smoothie analyzed the Marine situation. Naval headquarters Marshal Kong, although he is strong and has made great achievements in the past, is getting older after all, and he is the supreme commander of the Marine. I won't move out easily. In their eyes, the Big Mom pirates, which are not as good as the Whitebeard pirates, can be dispatched in the end. No matter how cautious they are, I think it is the Admiral of Headquarters Buddha Sengoku and the three admirals. Alternate. Since the opening of the Great Pirate Era, it is rare for Marine to launch such a big battle in New World. Except for Kong, the Marine Marshal, most of them are Sengoku, the Buddha of the Admiral of Headquarters, who is in command personally. But as the Supreme Commander of the Marine, Kong probably wouldn't go out in person under normal circumstances. After all, This veteran who has fought in the Marine for decades is already getting old. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been 2 years ago. Since the opening of the Great Pirate Era, due to Red Earl, Redfield in the first half of the Grand Line, the waters near the naval headquarters were noisy. At that time, Naval Headquarters Admiral Sengoku and Garp the Fist and other generals were all sent out to suppress the pirates who were constantly making trouble. Kong, the Marine Marshal, had to personally dispatch and lead his troops to capture the Red Earl. As a result, he fought with the opponent for 10 days and nights, and unfortunately lost in the end. And the Red Earl rider himself was suppressed by the Marine hero Garp, who arrived in time because of exhaustion. It is enough for Kong to experience such a shameful thing once, and he will not foolishly want to experience it a second time. Iron Fist. Garp, the famous and powerful Vice Admiral, although he is a Marine hero with great military exploits and high prestige in Marine, he can't replace Marine Admiral's role after all. The former Admiral of Headquarters, Black Arm, Zephyr, has already retired to the second line and transferred to the Chief Instructor of the Marine Academy, so he should not play anymore. Moreover, the 3 Admiral candidates for Naval Headquarters all have the strength to serve as Admiral of Headquarters. What is lacking is only enough military exploits and prestige. In this situation, replaced by Wilhelm as Marine Marshal, it can be said that they will not hesitate to choose Sengoku Buddha, the Admiral of Headquarters, who is almost the default candidate for the next Marine Marshal, to lead the future Marine 3 Admirals to the expedition. Heroes Garp and Black Arm Zephyr sit in Fortress G5 to guard against attacks from the Whitebeard Pirates and Beasts Pirates. Apart from Fortress G1, which is considered the base of the Marie Joy's portal in the Holy Land, Marine is the only bridgehead in the New World, and they are ready to help the front line at any time. One way, the young admiral can gain military exploits. Secondly, the Marine Admiral, Sengoku, the Buddha, can also command the entire battle to further enhance his prestige in Marine, and show his abilities to the top of the world government, so as to build momentum for him to succeed in the future. 3. It will allow Sengoku the Buddha, the best candidate to take over as Marine Marshal in the future, to run in advance with the future Marine Admiral. Even the Marine Admiral Kong is unwilling to be lonely, and he is unwilling to give up his position prematurely. He does not want Sengoku, the Marine Admiral who is most likely to threaten his position, to get too popular, lest his prestige be too high. Great, out of fear of Sengoku, the subordinate of the Buddha, he overcame all opinions and replaced the candidate for the Supreme Commander of the Expeditionary Grand Fleet with Garp, a Marine hero with high enough prestige to be able to hold the field and not have much ambition. All in all, it was nothing more than such a battle. Is that exaggerated enough? Even with the ability of Logia Airfruit. But considering the unfavorable situation ahead, Katakuri was not at all relaxed. His face was full of seriousness, and he said in a deep voice, "One Admiral of Headquarters, 3 powerful vices with overwhelming power and qualified as Admiral candidates Admiral, coupled with the large expeditionary fleet that has assembled tens of thousands of Marine elite troops and a large number of powerful Marine generals and officers, is enough to make any force change color and stand ready." Hear, hear. Smoothie's pretty face also gradually became serious. There, he nodded his head in agreement, and said to Wilhelm worriedly, "Indeed, to put it bluntly, if the Marine side is willing to grit their teeth and suffer the inevitable large number of casualties, and even prepares for the mentality that they may end up fighting with the enemy, prepare. Even if it is recognized as the uncrowned king of the New World, not only does it have Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, who has been recognized as the world's strongest man in recent years, it also has under its banner no fewer than 20 or 30 the pirate group is attached to, and the powerful Whitebeard pirate group dares to crusade. War is no child's play. It's better to be cautious, not to be careless." Katakuri frowned. In his impression, Wilhelm is by no means such an arrogant and ignorant person. As Katakuri Big Brother said, Wilhelm chuckled lightly, and said confidently, "War is not a child's play, and it's not like a house show. Pull out the highest combat power of both sides for a walk, and compare them to directly determine the winner. The situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly. No matter how powerful a monster is, if it is a little careless, it may be buried in the sea. Especially Devil Fruit's strange abilities, which are either hard to guard against, or overwhelming, like natural disasters, are enough to change or even subvert the traditional mode of warfare." He never planned to wait for the opponent to come step by step, and then the two sides would send warships and horses to bombard there, and finally start a full-scale war, soldiers against soldiers, kings against kings, generals against generals, and so on. That would be hilarious. Since it is a war, it must be done by any means. Take the initiative to attack, use all methods to inflict maximum casualties on the enemy, and annihilate areas with vitality. It would be best to directly turn the strongest Marines into polished commanders. This is the kingly way. Don't buy anything, Wilhelm. If you have any ideas, just say it. both Smoothie and Katakuri were confused. Looking at Wilhelm, who was full of confidence and high spirits, holding Jiju in his hand, he was a little surprised and uncertain. I don't understand where Wilhelm has such confidence. That is a huge marine fleet with tens of thousands of elites. And in terms of marine, it is very likely that at least 2 of the highest combat powers will be dispatched. Such a big battle, not to mention their big mom pirates, even the Whitebeard pirates, the uncrowned king who is not willing to provoke even marine, must be ready to fight, and dare not have any careless. Especially Katakuri, who has a relatively calm and cautious temperament. He is far more clear than others about what Marine Admiral, which represents the highest combat power of the naval headquarters, really means. He is not as confident as other members of the Charlotte family, and is not so blindly optimistic about the strength of his mother Charlotte Linlin. Admiral of Headquarters, Shienshi, Sengoku, the resourceful general, has dealt with Whitebeard, Edward Newgate countless times in the past. Even if he is weaker than that world's strongest man, he is not necessarily inferior. How far? That is to say, even if their mother, Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin, who is a natural monster and extremely powerful, can defeat Sengoku, the Admiral of Headquarters, it may not be so easy. What's more, in the Marine fleet that will attack the Big Mom pirates this time, it is very likely that there will be more than one Admiral candidate who is fully capable of serving as Admiral. Till this moment, in this sea, no one can face the combination of 2 or more Marines with the highest combat power alone. Even a few years ago, the once arrogant Golden Lion Shiki, for some reason, went crazy and broke into naval headquarters by himself. Even the Marine Admiral Kong didn't take action himself, and he was suppressed by the Marine Admiral Buddha Sengoku and the hero Garp. Hee. Wilhelm chuckled. He no longer sells anything. In the astonished eyes of Katakuri and Smoothie, he stretched out his right hand and pressed it on the air in front of him. Ka. A small circular air door opened there. Only the palm-sized circular passage is connected to a strange and incomparable green space, which is translucent, and the outside world can be seen directly from the inside. This is... Katakuri was a little surprised. Wilhelm can transfer the ability of Devil Fruit to the ring, so that he can use the ability other than transferring the fruit in a disguised form. He has already understood and experienced it before. But I still couldn't help being a little surprised. I looked at the ring on Wilhelm's hand in disbelief, and then at the strange green space. Can dead objects also carry demons? It's really surprising. The ability of the door fruit? Smoothie asked curiously. Although she knows that Wilhelm created the 10 rings, she has never seen Wilhelm's ability to use the door fruit. Gazing at the eerie green space inside Wilhelm's circular portal, Katakuri asked thoughtfully, "Is this your trump card?" Brush. In a split second. Whether it was Wilhelm himself, Katakuri, Smoothie or the others, together with the sofa under the 3 seats, they all disappeared into the hall. I saw the inside of the green space inside the strange portal that was no bigger than a palm. Smoothie and Katakuri only felt a blur in front of their eyes, and they were already in it. All stood up subconsciously, looking at this translucent green space in astonishment. They can see the outside world through here. Boom. Katakuri punched subconsciously. Dazzling incomparable light, bombarded out like lightning. Accompanied by an incomparably sharp air explosion sound, his air fist that came out shot straight into the distance until it disappeared without a trace. It's useless. Wilhelm, who was sitting on the sofa, said lightly. This is a different space, which is equivalent to another parallel space. From here, you can see the outside world, but you can never touch the outside world. In other words, unless the people locked in can escape before the passage is closed, or they can only kill me and use the ability of the 10 rings, to reopen the door connected to the different space, otherwise it is impossible maybe leave this different space. Even if the strength is strong, it's useless. After incorporating the ability of Paramisha Monmon fruit into Kickoff, Wilhelm has already figured out the different space in the door fruit, and he is also thankful for his ability to obtain this bug. This green space is equivalent to a special parallel space, infinitely vast in a sense. Except for the air that can allow people to survive normally here without suffocating to death, there is no other material including land and other resources. Only the door fruit can open the passage leading here. He hasn't found it yet. There are other abilities that can enter this different space. What? This ability? Katakuri and Smoothie heard the words. All of them couldn't help changing their colors, and they were a little angry. This kind of ability is terrifying to the extreme and makes people shudder. It's so unreasonable. So that's how it is. Katakuri looked at Wilhelm, and said in a daze, "You want to use this method to lock those powerful naval headquarters here and trap them to death? This is only part of the plan. After all, such strong men are astonishingly strong as monsters. The hockey hidden in the body is too powerful. At least at present, I cannot effectively transfer them. Wilhelm nodded, and said frankly, moreover, most of these experienced powerhouses are extremely alert and react extremely quickly. Once they are prepared, even if they open the portal, they may not be able to easily force them in. Here. Speaking of which. He changed the subject and said with a sneer, but those warships and the marine soldiers on them are different. What do you mean? Katakuri and Smoothie couldn't help shrinking their pupils. He, ha ha ha, Wilhelm covered his head. There I couldn't stop laughing muffled, and gradually turned into a loud laugh. A little unscrupulous, full of indescribable arrogance and wantonness, the whole person's violent aura kept rising. What do you think? Katakuri big brother. Without warning, his eyes froze. An incomparably terrifying conqueror's haki, carrying an unparalleled sense of oppression, suddenly poured out from him in all directions. The tyrannical momentum is like a gust of wind passing through, sweeping past like a destructive force. Ping pong pong. Woo. The atmosphere seemed to freeze. For a moment, it was accompanied by the extremely violent wind pressure. In the green space, the tea table, teacups, wine glasses, etc. were all shaking violently and were thrown out, and were all torn apart and completely destroyed in a blink of an eye. Wilhelm. This conqueror's haki, Smoothie and Katakuri changed color. All of a sudden, Shuang was forced to fly upside down by the extremely strong wind. Even the incomparably luxurious sofa under the seat has been torn apart in an instant. It turned into cotton and rags all over the sky, flying there with the wind. This guy Wilhelm. His aura is completely different from before. Katakuri stared at the unrestrained Wilhelm in front of him, who was becoming more and more fierce and domineering. His tyrannical conqueror's haki swept out like not to be outdone. Boom. Woohoo, crackling. Crackling. Two amazing conquerors' haki collided directly. Visible to the naked eye, black and red lightning strikes appeared there. They crisscross, interweave, shine, and jump violently there, spreading and extending toward the entire space. As if the aura between the two has really materialized, in this strange green space, one large and small dark red spheres can be faintly seen, squeezing and shoving each other crazily there, not giving in to each other. As this conqueror's collision, at this time, faced with the continuous ripples, the violent wind pressure made people almost unsteady. Since he didn't directly use Thunderfruit's elemental ability, he couldn't get close at all, and Smoothie's pupils, who could only watch from a distance, widened and shocked. How is this possible? Look at Wilhelm and Katakuri who have no scruples to release conqueror's haki to fight there. She couldn't help opening her mouth wide, her pretty face covered with cold sweat was full of disbelief, and she was indescribably moved. Surprisingly, it was discovered that the more ostentatious, majestic and powerful, outrageously domineering aura, which made people feel a little frightened and could not help trembling, belonged to Wilhelm. The conqueror's haki he released completely overwhelmed that Katakuri Goko. Boom. Crackling. Two strands of amazing conqueror's haki. Like a large and a small materialized sphere, it is constantly colliding and squeezing there. Although the incomparable conqueror's haki released by Wilhelm earlier was indeed stronger, it couldn't directly crush Katakuri's conquerors who was not to be outdone and was stubbornly resisting there. Woohoo! The astonishing wind pressure swept over there, making it impossible to look directly at. Under Smoothie's shocking eyes. Both disappear without a trace as the two amazing conquerors' haki cancel each other out. Whether it is Wilhelm or Katakuri, it seems that they are the same without appointment. All disappeared in an instant. Their fists and feet rubbed against the atmosphere violently. It directly turned into afterimages all over the sky, too fast to be seen clearly by the naked eye. There they waved crazily, entangled with armament haki, and collided strongly there. Bang bang bang, woo hoo hoo, a series of loud bangs. Cannot help echoing in the green space. Exaggerated airwaves, ripples, and crazily rolled away. People can't help but feel frightened and their scalps tingle. Neither of the two used the devil fruit ability, and directly used physical skills to confront each other. Sheer power, speed, haki fighting. Smoothie, who couldn't get close at all and could only wait and see, was completely stunned. That exaggerated speed, that incredible power. It was simply beyond imagination, and it made people completely overwhelmed. Makes the scalp tingle. Finally, the two figures separated. It stands there like two sculptures. His face was not red and he was not out of breath, as if the violent, fist-to-flesh collision before had never happened. Wilhelm, Katakuri big brother. There was a flash of lightning. Smoothie's figure flew over directly. She breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Wilhelm and Katakuri and said, I thought you were really going to fight here for half a day. Don't say that. Unscathed, Wilhelm looked relaxed. Shrugging his shoulders, he said with a light smile, I haven't seen you for a long time, Brothers, we're testing each other's strengths, and it's just a matter of learning from each other. You really got stronger. Katakuri stared deeply at Wilhelm, and couldn't help but marvel. Whether it's hockey or strength, they are not inferior to me at all. Although he didn't really go all out just now. However, Wilhelm did not directly use the monster-like form that can instantly enhance its own strength, speed, nerve response, etc., and even hockey, greatly improving its combat effectiveness. Needless to say, Conqueror's hockey, Wilhelm's performance simply surprised him. As far as the strength of armament hockey is concerned, under normal conditions Wilhelm's armed strength is not necessarily weaker than him. As for observation hockey, although Wilhelm can't foresee the future like him, but the very special observation hockey is not weak either. It can perfectly predict his attacks and rely on its exaggerated nerve response ability make response as soon as possible. Katakuri is almost certain. Even if he can master the ability of Logia air fruit in the future. It may not be able to suppress the ability to transfer fruit with Paramecia, and it can also directly transform into a moonlion, which is equivalent to Wilhelm who has two kinds of devil fruit abilities. He has thought about it. This perfect person inherited the monster-like talent of their mother, Charlotte Linlin. She was born with terrifying potential, and she worked far harder than all of them. She has been practicing unremittingly since she was able to walk, and constantly the younger brother who seeks strength. Sooner or later, you will directly surpass yourself. But Katakuri did not expect that this day would come so soon. It has to be said that it is unavoidable to be a little bit shocked. As far as armament hockey is concerned, after the comprehensive strengthening after Yushi transformation, it is expected to be better than Katakuri's big brother. Wilhelm spread his hands and said with a smile, but observation hockey is better than you, still a bit worse. Although his special observation hockey can completely replace the eyes, it even allows him to have an extremely keen ability to predict. But in the end, it is still impossible to predict the future so exaggeratedly. It also takes constant exercise. It's already amazing, your progress is completely beyond my imagination. Katakuri said in a deep voice, you are only 15 years old, and I am nearly 30 years old. After more than 20 years of practice, experienced large and small battles, and fighting countless pirates, I am today's strength. Such an astonishing rate of progress, it is conceivable that one day sooner or later, the Wilhelm brother will go straight ahead of the mother they all respect and fear, Charlotte Linlin. After all, even though the talents of the two are almost the same, Wilhelm's effort is countless times that of their mother. What's more, Katakuri, who once taught Wilhelm to practice and specially trained him, is very aware of Wilhelm's terrifying talent. In his opinion, Wilhelm's talent, savvy, state of mind and other aspects may be far better than their mother Charlotte Linlin. Its future is unimaginable, but this is also Katakuri's biggest worry. On the one hand, he is happy to have a younger brother with unlimited potential, and he is also gratified that such a talent can appear in the Charlotte family, and he is even more indescribably proud. On the other hand, once Wilhelm has the strength to challenge Charlotte Linlin in the future, the young wolf that has grown up may not necessarily sit back and watch the old man grow old, and the incompetent wolf will continue to act as the wolf king to lead him and dictate his orders there. Especially, their mother is really, in short, it's hard to say. Although as a child, he is not easy to evaluate. But Wilhelm, it's not like the other brothers and sisters will be at the mercy of that mother. The previous extremely domineering and powerful conqueror's hockey has already explained everything. The heart has the tigers, fine sniffing the rose. I think you can spend more time on armament hockey. As for observation hockey, it has almost reached its peak. Next, just maintain daily exercise and improve steadily. There is no need to focus too much on it. Looking at the strongest star of the Charlotte family, Wilhelm suggested seriously. For Katakuri, his observation hockey has reached the height of being able to foresee the future in a short time. No matter how much he exercises, there will be no big leap. Just keep exercising on a daily basis. Or put more energy on your own physical skills and armament hockey's practice. As for Conqueror's hockey, although Wilhelm has enough self-confidence, unswervingly believe that one day, I will be able to perfectly grasp the power of the conquerors entwining the entire sea, which can only be mastered by a handful of people. But I can't guarantee that Katakuri can do it, it's better to focus on the armed color first. Maybe you're right. Katakuri was silent for a moment, then sighed helplessly. Human energy is limited after all, I put too much energy into observation hockey. Seeing that his younger brother was getting stronger and stronger, he couldn't help feeling a great pressure. It's not that he is afraid of being completely surpassed by Wilhelm, which will affect his status as the strongest general. But out of their own arrogance, unwilling to lag behind others. Make up your mind and wait until this war with Marine is over. Next, calm down and put more energy into cultivation. No matter what, my elder brother can't be too far behind. Especially, if one day in the future the situation develops in the direction he least wants to see, when this younger brother has a direct and intense conflict with their mother. If the strength is not enough, then he can only watch the two close relatives fight each other, and can't do anything. That's the worst part. Think here. Katakuri clenched his fists tightly. Looking ahead at the high-spirited and unreasonably young Wilhelm, his eyes were complicated. This favor. I owe too much, I can't even stand on my mother's side. Feeling the incomparably majestic power hidden in his body, it is unbelievably powerful, far surpassing the Logia air fruit ability of Paramecia Nunu a fruit. Katakuri secretly smiled bitterly in his heart. Brother Wilhelm, this is also you calculation? After a short period of confusion, his gaze turned directly to firmness. In case such a situation is unavoidable at that time. No matter what choice you make, which side you will stand on. But we must not even have the qualifications to intervene. Although, whether it is out of reason or emotion, he subconsciously believes that compared to their perverse, moody, cruel and tyrannical mother, perhaps she is far superior to her in character, wisdom, strategy, etc. Wilhelm is obviously more suitable as a reporter for the Lauder family. But Charlotte Linlin was their mother after all. At least, until then. Katakuri hoped that their mother would be under house arrest by then. It is also necessary to ensure that she can live without worrying about food and clothing as much as possible. This is the only kindness that the Son of Man can repay. Wilhelm, hurry up when you're done here, on the port of Juice Island. On his own flower ship. Katakuri looked at the shore and Wilhelm, who was coming to take him back to Cake Island with Smoothie, and said in a deep voice, Mom already knows that you are back, and I am anxious to see you. Clear. Wilhelm nodded and said, then, Katakuri big brother, see you later, explain to Mom for me. Earlier, Shiryu of the Rain and Kuro the Feathered Serpent called, saying that they had officially entered the waters of Toto Land. I don't think it will take long to arrive at Juice Island. He was going to wait for Shiryu of the Rain and the others to come back with the corpses of Gecko Moria and Dragon-slaying warrior, and to resurrect the once famous great swordsman Shimotsuki Ryoma before heading to Cake Island to meet the so-called Charlotte Linlin mother. With Smoothie watching Katakuri, the strongest general of the Charlotte family, leave. You really aren't in a hurry at all. You dare to let Mom wait for someone. You're the only one in the whole Charlotte family. Looking at the unhurried Wilhelm, Smoothie exhaled helplessly. And this time Marine is coming aggressively. Aren't you afraid of something unexpected happening? Since the opening of the Great Pirate Era, countless ambitious and restless people have rushed to the sea, and the situation in the sea has been unprecedentedly turbulent. In order to suppress those pirates who are doing chaos everywhere, even the amazingly large and large-scale Marine, in terms of military strength it has already begun to be a little stretched, and it is very busy. It took several years of hard work to finally stabilize the situation a little bit. Since Naval Headquarters suddenly relaxes the defense of the first half of the Grand Line at this time, it does not hesitate to risk years of hard work in vain and the risk of falling short, but also to mobilize a large number of elite troops to organize the Grand Fleet expedition to the Big Mom pirate group in New World. It shows that this well-deserved overlord of the sea has obviously made up his mind. It will definitely not be just a small fight. Although Wilhelm's ability is very powerful, but facing the enemy, after all, is the naval headquarters with a deep foundation, she still can't help but feel a little worried. You must know that at the beginning, Wilhelm relied on his ability to transfer fruits and his advantage in the sea, so he could only compete with Akainu, the admiral candidate, and he was a loser. It is even impossible to continue to compete with the opponent for a long time. There's nothing to worry about, it's just man-made. Wilhelm looked calm and calm. He is completely different now than he was a few months ago. Not only has his strength improved to a higher level, but he has also discovered a cheat that can transfer Homies' soul power as a price for activating the 10 rings ability, which can be called a bug. Waiting for a disguise to have a steady stream of physical strength. Even if it is a one-on-one fight with Akainu on land. As long as there is enough Homies as energy, he can consume enough energy to kill the future Marine Admiral. As long as Marine's expeditionary fleet dares to attack. On the vast and endless sea, he can be said to have the best geographical advantage, so he is really not afraid. Relying on the bug-like, unsolvable Paramecia fruit transfer ability. In terms of Marine, except for the few strong ones. In Wilhelm's eyes, no matter how many warships there are, they are just targets. No matter how many so-called Marine elites, they are no different from cattle and sheep. The difference is just that there are too many, and it is a bit laborious to kill them. However, it does not have to be one by one. Directly use the ability of the fruit of the door to open the channel of the different space. Coupled with the ability to transfer fruits, people and warships can be directly transferred to a different space. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. sooner or later you will die. Even in the end, his strategy of hunting some monster forces from the Marine camp failed. Gathering all the combat power of the Big Mom pirate group, none of them can stop the attack of those monsters in Marine. In the worst case, the lives of those Marine elites can be used to directly force these Marine executives to compromise. 1 Marine, 100 Marine, 1,000 Marine, even if they can ignore it, they think that these losses are within the tolerable range, as the price for destroying the Big Mom pirate group. But there are tens of thousands of Marine elites, and even tens of thousands of Marine elites. It's completely different. Hope everything goes as you wish. Seeing Wilhelm, the younger brother, is so calm. After all, having personally experienced Wilhelm's unstoppable ability, Smoothie couldn't help but feel a little more confident. With a relaxed smile, he laughed there. The two siblings were talking there and were going back to Juice Castle. I saw the figure of Boa Hancock trotting over, stopping him with his arms outstretched. With a determined look on his face, he said loudly to Wilhelm, "Master Wilhelm, please turn me into an adult." Like Yamato. Oh? Smoothie was surprised. She looked at Boa Hancock with a smile and asked, "Hancock, do you want to be as big as Yamato too? This is not a joke." I heard Pato say that although Yamato looks like an adult, she was a 9-year-old girl a few days ago. 12-year-old Hancock exclaimed, "I want to get big too." She never admitted that it was because she saw Yamato's perfect figure and felt a little envious. I happened to see my own thin and immature appearance in the mirror, and I was a little bit shocked when I thought of Mr. Wilhelm's evaluation of myself as average, and I was so angry that I couldn't wait to make such a decision. She heard about it from Tanuki Pato. This bitch actually wants to be Mrs. Wilhelm's child bride-in-law, bah. This made Hancock inexplicably unhappy, and suddenly gave birth to an unprecedented sense of crisis. Master Wilhelm is her. She was the one who met first. Looking at this little girl with conqueror's aptitude and unlimited potential, her complexion gradually became serious. Smoothie seriously warned. "Do you know the price of growing up? That is equivalent to losing 10 years of youth, shortening 10 years of life." "I know, but I want to grow up quickly, at least to be able to play a role, to help Lord Wilhelm, and by the way, to allow Sandersonia and Marigold to return to Amazon Lily safely as soon as possible." Thinking of the panic and humiliation of her 3 sisters when they were auctioned off, and thinking of Wilhelm throwing her 2 sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, from a height in order to test her potential a few days ago, that made her so angry that Ultimate almost collapsed and despaired as powerless. Hancock clenched his fists tightly, his nails were embedded in his flesh unconsciously. "I can't do anything now." Looking at the unbelievably handsome face in front of her, which appeared more than once in her somewhat embarrassing dreams, she couldn't help but blush a little every time, and her heartbeat began to speed up unsatisfactorily. Hancock bowed deeply there, and said unswervingly to Wilhelm, "Master Wilhelm, please be sure to agree, please." At this time, although she was still young and immature, and she was wheat-colored, but after eating the Paramecia linlean fruit, she began to emit an indescribable charm gradually, and her small face that had already begun to have a vague charm was full of tears. The indescribable perseverance and determination made Smoothie feel a little lost in a trance. There is no turning back when you open the bough. Once the ability to ripen the fruit is activated, it cannot be reversed. If you really make up your mind, I will not stop you, but there is no medicine for regret in this world. Wilhelm stared at Hancock, a little surprised. He didn't mean to stop, just said very calmly. From the very beginning, he planned to use the ability of the ripe fruit to let the future empress grow up ahead of schedule. But unexpectedly, after Hancock learned about Yamato, he ran up to ask for the ability to use the ripe fruit to transform her from a child to an adult. "I won't regret it." Looking at Wilhelm's handsome and stalwart figure, Hancock bowed seriously again. "Master Wilhelm, please make me an adult." Wilhelm. Looking at the sick little face, "I'm so sincere, please agree," and cook, he couldn't help twitching the corners of his mouth slightly. Why does this sound a bit ambiguous? Unbelievable. Beautiful. Hancock. Is this really you, Sister Hancock? Huh. Is this really Hancock who was a little darker just now? Wow. As a woman, I can't help but feel a little bit moved. 10 minutes later, inside the magnificent castle. Follow Hancock and Shinobu out of the room. Everyone present gasped a little, full of disbelief. Whether it is the 3 Smoothie sisters or the 2 sisters Sandersonia and Marigold, they can't help but be sluggish. Under the influence of Shinobu's Paramecia ripe fruit ability, the 10-year-old Hancock instantly grew from a 12-year-old girl to a 22-year-old beauty. She is completely different from before. She has changed from an ugly duckling to a noble and beautiful white swan. Even the wheat-colored skin has become extremely white, and the tall figure is more than 1.9 meters tall. Wearing a gorgeous and noble cheongsam, Coupled with a figure that is not inferior to Yamato's curves, the whole person exudes amazing charm. Looking at Hancock, who has a new look, with every frown and smile, he reveals infinite allure invisibly. They just couldn't look away. Inexplicably, he couldn't help but blushed and had a heartbeat. Even Wilhelm, who has always been cold and steady, couldn't help but a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes. It's not only getting bigger, but it's also turning white. It's incredible. Yamato stepped forward like a familiarity, and squeezed Hancock's shockingly beautiful, flawless snow-white face full of curiosity. Yamato, with horns on top of his head, with a beautiful face full of smiles, proudly puffed out his chest, and said happily narcissistically, "However, it is still a little worse than me, hee." Hancock's beautiful face froze, and his eyelids twitched slightly. If it wasn't for maintaining a good image in front of that lord, she couldn't help but step forward to challenge him one-on-one. This shameless bitcha really dares to put gold on his face. It's obvious that you are crushing yourself in all directions, okay? Whether it's body shape or appearance, in all aspects. She won't lose. Tisk tisk. The ability to love fruits is really terrifying. Smoothie tried to calm himself down, calmed down, and said directly to Wilhelm, "Even I can't help being tempted." Master Wilhelm. Looking at the performance of everyone present, Hancock couldn't help but feel a little proud. Like a proud white swan, she triumphantly glanced at Yamato, who suddenly appeared before and gave her a great sense of crisis. His gaze was full of expectation to that Lord Wilhelm. "This is to be expected." Wilhelm nodded calmly. Looking at the beautiful and moving eyes in front of him, his pretty eyes full of anticipation, people can't help but feel infatuated, and Hancock, who couldn't bear to look away, lightly smiled and warned, "The fruit of love has indeed endowed you with unparalleled charm, but the light, it's not enough to have good looks, and you can't lose strength too, dough. The future world's most beautiful woman has begun to take shape. Next, it depends on whether her own talent is amazing enough, and how high she can raise her own strength. If you can't even compare with Smoothie, what qualifications do you have to be called Empress?" "Yes, Master Wilhelm, I will work hard." Hancock clenched his fists and said excitedly. Glancing at Yamato, who was unaware, he was full of indescribable fighting spirit. "This bitch is also worthy of competing with me for Lord Wilhelm? She will not be worse than the other party. Only a woman with both beauty and strength is worthy of the perfect Mrs. Wilhelm." Hancock looked at Wilhelm's handsome face with some fascination, and made up his mind secretly there. "You have to work harder next time. At this time," Wilhelm thought. Probing into the void with his right hand, a thin and embarrassed figure appeared in his hand. Transferred Rob Lucci, who had a bruised nose and blood all over his body, out of the prison and threw him in front of Shinobi. The sudden change surprised everyone present. "Are you going to start?" Smoothie, who had guessed something, chuckled lightly. Sneyman, who is tall and has a heroic brow, said with a smile, "It's really exciting. Xiao Ren, by the way, increase his age by 10, I'll still be useful." Wilhelm directed to Xiao Ren. Yes. Shinobu was puzzled though, but he did not hesitate to carry out Wilhelm's orders. In a blink of an eye, he activated his ripe fruit ability, turning Rob Lucci from 11 to 21. "Do what you want and leave me alone." Nodding towards the three Smoothie sisters, Hancock, Yamato and others. Wilhelm directly took the ability to suddenly grow under the ripe fruit, and turned into a 21-year-old appearance. Rob Lucci, who was somewhat unable to react, disappeared in place. "What, are you going to kill me?" The embarrassed Rob Lucci looked at Wilhelm in front of him, full of sarcasm. But he was full of doubts in his heart, and he didn't understand why the other party wanted to turn himself into a 20s. He could completely feel the strength gushing out of his body. He was completely different from himself when he was 11 years old. But it's a pity that even the current him can't get rid of the handcuffs in his hands, that although they are not sea stones, they are said to be as strong as sea stones, made of some kind of shaped memory alloy. "To be honest, I'm really not willing to give up a talent like you," Wilhelm said lightly. "It's a pity that you are too ignorant. Farewell." Don't give Rob Lucci a chance to react. Rob Lucci's eyes widened. Falling there, the vitality gradually slackened. Human fruit, phantasmal beast, great entrance form. Wilhelm grabbed a strange devil fruit, and stared at the dead Rob Lucci. It can directly control the size of the body, arbitrarily become several meters high or even as tall as a real mountain, and its body shape is not inferior to the size of the Titans. Monk, and the burst of strength will also vary with the size of the body. Just suitable for this kind of genius with strong physical talent. On the way back from Wano-kuni, he has already used the pirates caught halfway. The ability of this human fruit phantom beast species great enlightenment form has been verified. In general, it is not as amazing as the psychological expectation, but it is not as bad as imagined in. According to legend, Dainudao is a monster with a monk-like appearance and a large body. And there are many types of Dainudao. The smaller Dainudao is about 2 meters, and the larger Dainudao can hold a mountain in your arms. Almost the same as in the legend. The human fruit phantom beast species the ability user in the form of great enlightenment. Able to transform into a giant monk, Dainudao at will. After transforming, the body of the ability user will become huge, thus possessing powerful strength. The height is not constant, and changes with the ability user's own strength. The specific upper limit cannot be verified by Wilhelm. But what is certain is that if the ability user is strong enough, after transforming into the Dao form, the body size will never be smaller than that of the Titans. How tall can it finally become, and what level of strength can it explode? Next up is Rob Lucci himself, Master Wilhelm. It didn't take long to be inside the prison. A young and embarrassed figure knelt there on one knee. Wilhelm didn't take much effort, and easily subdued the new Da Enlightenment, after the other party, resurrected from the dead. Did not give the other party a new name, still let it be named, Rob Lucci. Swipe. He made a hook with his right hand. Directly transfer the pair of handcuffs made of Hawkins alloy. Unchained Rob Lucci. Lucci, what is the maximum size of your Dao entrance form? Wilhelm asked, looking at Rob Lucci in front of him. Brush. Without hesitation. Affected by the memory of his original body, Rob Lucci, who was a bit cruel, activated his ability. The whole person has changed at a speed visible to the naked eye. It turned into a small titan with a tall body, about 6 meters. Feeling his own power pouring out there, he replied respectfully, Master Wilhelm, at present, the maximum I can transform into a 6-meter high Dao 9 Emperors has skyrocketed. He refers to power. It refers to the ability to obtain a corresponding improvement with the growth of the body under the action of the ability of the ripe fruit. Rather than the strength of the previous 11 years old. Hit me with all your strength, I'll test it. Wilhelm nodded and ordered directly. I want to see how far the 31-year-old Rob Lucci can go. So offended, Lord Wilhelm. Rob Lucci, who is 6 meters tall and unbelievably strong, looks like a monster, stomping under his feet. Shave. Suddenly disappeared in place. In an instant, it was in front of Wilhelm. The huge fist print became as strong as steel in an instant, and it slammed over, iron body. Steel. Boom. An understatement. With one hand, he blocked the huge fist print that was coming. Looking at Rob Lucci in front of him, Wilhelm nodded with satisfaction. Although I haven't mastered hockey yet, in the case of incarnation in the form of Dao Dao, both speed and strength are remarkable. The fighting power that erupts from this style is no worse than that of the ordinary Naval Headquarters Elite Rear Admiral. Although the current Rob Lucci is an adult body. But it is equivalent to 10 years of spanning the developmental period at once, and it is far from fully tapping the potential of the body. Next, unremittingly train hard, and within the absolutely possible time, you will achieve explosive growth, and your strength will usher in a huge leap. I still need to practice a lot in the future. Wilhelm patted Rob Lucci on the shoulder. I'm counting on you to be my capable general. Yes, Master Wilhelm, I will work hard. About half a day's work. Shiryu of the Rain and Kuro the Feathered Serpent returned with their trophies on Somersault Clouds. Cloud, I am Somersault Cloud. With the cute singing of Somersault Cloud, Shiryu of the Rain and Kuro the Feathered Serpent jumped off of it one after another. They fell one after another on the roof of the central castle of Juice Island. Wilhelm took the 3 Smoothie Sisters, Miyamoto Musashi, and Dr. Hawkins to the rooftop, looked at Shiryu of the Rain and Kuro the Feathered Serpent, and said, Welcome back, guys. Master Wilhelm, luckily you have fulfilled your mission. Shiryu of the Rain looked at Miyamoto Musashi, a little surprised. But for the first time, his eyes were attracted by Tian Yu Zan and Yan Mo between him, and his pupils could not help shrinking sharply. Yahahaha, is he too? Feather Serpent Cool looked at Rob Lucci in surprise. Finally, his eyes turned to Miyamoto Musashi, his eyes were full of fighting spirit. This is Rob Lucci who grew up 10 years old with the ability to ripen fruit. I think he should be impressed by your torture. This is Miyamoto Musashi. Wilhelm Jiaoyuja Shiryu he chuckled and said, his predecessor, there is another name, Kazuki Odin, I think you should have heard of Shiryu. Rob Lucci stared at Shiryu of the Rain, and said lightly, that's the festival between my predecessor and him, I don't care. Hey. What a surprise, it's suddenly a year. Shiryu of the Rain looked at Rob Lucci, who suddenly became an adult, and was a little surprised. Then, he looked at Miyamoto Musashi with burning eyes, the former 2nd Division captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, a member of the Roger Pirates. This is an incredible big shot. Your Excellency Shiryu is also a swordsman, you have a chance to learn from each other. Miyamoto Musashi was straightforward and said directly to Shiryu Ume. He could feel that this was a very powerful opponent. I can't wish for it. Shiryu Yuji, who is a combat madman himself, smiled and looked fiercely, and gladly accepted the challenge. Don't be so impatient, let's finish important things before that. Wilhelm looked over the somersault cloud. Gecko Moria's gang struggling there. Tall and fat, Gecko Moria looks like a ghost. The thin young man is Absalom, a Paramecia transparent fruit ability user, and the 5 or 6-year-old girl is Perona, a Paramecia ghost fruit ability user. Through Shiryu's report, Wilhelm naturally knew their identities. B. Wilhelm ticked off. Hey Dao Chu Shui, the corpse of the sword hero Ryoma. It was directly transferred from above the somersault cloud to the front of everyone. Is this the dragon-slaying warrior from the past? Miyamoto Musashi was amazed. He couldn't help showing a fighting spirit in his eyes. He was looking forward to the opponent's resurrection. There is also this famous black knife Chusui. So rotten. Can it be restored? Smoothie asked Wilhelm. No problem. Just pay homies, Wilhelm shrugged. Kangdang. Asshole, let go of lousy, Lord Moria, I don't want to die. Both Moria and his men were struggling there. But the sea stone that Shiryu of the Rain put on them in advance made them powerless to resist. Brush, in an instant, Moria, Perona, and Absalom disappeared without a trace. Wilhelm used the ability to transfer fruits to transfer them to the prison of Juice Island. Moreover, a knife came directly. Let Shiryu of the Rain stare. This is Shiryu, this is second generation Onitsu, for you. Wilhelm threw the second generation Katoru to Shiryu of the Rain, and handed the 2 swords of Kurozumi Orochi and the black sword Chusui to Dr. Hawkins. These 2 swords are a little bit worse, but they are rare famous knives in the world. Ain. You can use the ability of Munch Munch fruit to fuse them with Chusui, add Hawkins alloy, and reshape them. Ho 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 ho, leave it to me. It's actually second generation Katoru. Hey, it really suits me. Shiryu of the Rain watched the second generation Katoru in his hand, showed a satisfied smile, looked at Dr. Hawkins, and said directly, Ain, you can also help me strengthen this thunderstorm later. No problem. Dr. Hawkins wholeheartedly agreed. For him, this is not difficult. Wilhelm looked at the corpse of the swordsman Ryoma, and chuckled lightly. Then, let's begin. Swipe. He grabbed the void with his big hand. From the room, the tomato-shaped, orange devil fruit was photographed. This is. Whether it was the 2 sisters Smoothie and Strong, or Shiryu of the Rain, Kuro the feathered serpent, and the others, all of them couldn't help staring at each other, full of surprise. Dog fruit phantom beast species Deco true god form. Wilhelm didn't hold back, and gave a simple and direct introduction. Another phantom beast? Shiryu of the Rain gasped, a little incredulous. Phantom beasts that claim to be rarer than Logia. Smoothie couldn't believe it, and his face was full of astonishment. There are so many little Wanokuni. Miyamoto Musashi, Rob Lucci, this already needs to consume 2 phantom beasts. Now there is also a dog fruit phantom beast species big mouth true god form, ready to resurrect the former dragon-slaying warrior. In other words, Wilhelm brought back the abilities of the 3 phantom beasts directly from Wanokuni. Half an hour later, on the roof of the castle. Nothing unexpected happened. The old swordsman Ryoma resurrected over, and it is not his old posture before dying. Instead, Wilhelm used the ability of Paramecia healing fruit to directly restore his decayed and old body to about 40 years old. It's the golden age. Master, gradually merged with the memories of the dragon-slaying warrior in the past. The sword hero Ryoma knelt there on one knee, swearing allegiance to the Lord Wilhelm. From now on, you will still be named Shimotsuki Ryoma. Wilhelm patted him on the shoulder and said with high hopes, I hope you don't fall into the name of the famous dragon-slaying warrior of the past. Yes, King. The sword hero Longma's eyes are firm, and he is decisive. I will do my best to live up to the name of Longma. Hey, this is your knife. Dr. Hawkins took out the famous sword Chusui that had been rebuilt from the Tuntun factory in his body, and handed it to the dragon-slaying warrior. Some sighed. Haki, it's really incredible. I didn't expect that after being perfectly smelted with 2 famous swords and shape memory alloy, it can still maintain the nature of the black sword. Same as the original Chusui. The blade is in the shape of a random blade with a big reverse T, and the blade is black and purple with a red zigzag pattern. Equals V? %, however, after being re-melted with Munch Munch fruit ability, the entire blade of Chusui is wider and longer than the original Chusui. It shone coldly, and there was a heavy breath invisibly. It's even more perfect. Looking at the black knife, Shiryu of the Rain was amazed. Unable to wait, he handed over his thunderstorm in the second generation to Dr. Hawkins. Ho ho. I never thought that Chusui, who was limited by the materials in the past and failed to evolve into the supreme sword after being refined into a black sword, would actually advance to a higher level with the help of your excellency. Received the famous knife Chusui from Dr. Hawkins. The sword hero Ryoma, who perfectly received this body and obtained the memory of the original dragon-slaying warrior, was amazed. Holding the simple and unadorned handle tightly, he looked at this black knife, which was heavier, wider, longer and sharper than the original famous knife Chusui. The sword hero Longma closed his eyes. The momentum gradually became awe-inspiring. It was as if the famous dragon-slaying warrior from the past had really returned. Relying on the memory of the original body and the uncorrupted muscle memory after hundreds of years. The next moment, he opened his eyes. A gleam flashed in his eyes. Swing the knife suddenly. Kai, a cold light tore through the atmosphere. An incomparably dazzling light green slash, so dazzling that people can't help squinting their eyes subconsciously, unable to look directly at it. Like lightning, it shot towards the sky. It's completely different from the original Chusui. Holding the black knife Chusui in his hand, the swordsman Ryoma showed an excited smile. Now it is a well-deserved supreme sword. The sword skills of the dragon-slaying warrior in the past are so famous in the world, people can't wait to experience it. Both Shiryu of the Rain and Musashi Miyamoto had fierce eyes, full of fighting spirit. Even the Smoothie sisters are no exception. Facing the legendary great swordsman, there is no swordsman who does not want to take this opportunity to ask for advice. In particular, even if the swordsman Ryoma cannot display the strength of the Dragon Slayer warrior in his heyday, he has inherited everything from the famous swordsman hundreds of years ago, and he has perfectly inherited the other party's lifelong swordsmanship. Never too weak. I want to compete with you too. Received Dr. Hawkins' rebuilt Chusui scabbard. The swordsman Ryoma, who sheathed the black sword Chusui, smiled, and looked at Shiryu of the Rain and Musashi Miyamoto without flinching. The instinct of the swordsman made them feel each other's strength for the first time. A desire to win was born. In fact, don't even mention them. Even Wilhelm himself is no exception. I want to experience the sword skills of the dragon-slaying warrior from the past. You know, these days are on the way back from Wano-kuni. In addition to using those unlucky pirates to verify the ability to enter the Dao form. He has already had a swordsmanship sparring with Miyamoto Musashi, but limited by the venue, so far. Time is too fast, some are not very happy. I have no objection if you guys want to compete, but don't mess around on Table Island. Looking at the fighting spirit of several people present, Wilhelm shrugged. Pado can conjure up Aokiji, one of the admiral candidates, and use Logia's ability to freeze the sea to freeze the sea. He is also a swordsman, and one of Wilhelm's goals is to become the world's #1 swordsman. Naturally, he also has a strong competitive spirit, but he will go to Cake Island to meet Charlotte Linlin next. Otherwise, he would definitely be the first to experience the Shimotsuki style of swordsmanship that the swordsman Ryoma used to shake the world. Pado. Smoothie laughed lightly, and couldn't help marveling. No matter how many times I see its abilities, it always feels exaggerated. Tanuki Pado, who was born not long ago, has been following Wilhelm all the time, and it is impossible to meet Aokiji himself so far. But it has to be said that the ability of Devil Fruit has indeed surpassed human wisdom and imagination. The abilities of Dog Fruit, Phantom Beast species, and Raccoon form can be said to be very exaggerated, completely subverting common sense. Regardless of whether it is operated by Pado himself, other people holding its transforming leaf can also activate the ability of changing everything in the world in the form of the Phantom Beast and Raccoon. It doesn't really matter what is written on the deformed leaf, and it doesn't affect the effect if it is written wrong. It makes people suspect that it really relies on its own idea, or will. After all, when anyone writes on the deformation leaf, he will inevitably recall the goal he wants to change in his mind. What's even more exaggerated is that even if you haven't really seen the person or the thing with your own eyes, you only need to see the photos of the target. No matter how poor your personal memory and imagination are, you only need to have a rough outline in your mind, no matter how vague, general, or abstract. The ability of the Phantom Beast and Raccoon form can directly transform the target without any mistakes. Among the people present, others may not have seen Aokiji himself, but they often deal with the generals of Marine, handing over the pirates and criminals escorted over, and Shiryu the Rain, the former head of Impel Down, must have seen it. It just needs to be dominated by him borrowing Pado's metamorphic leaf. This Logia frozen fruit ability user can be easily conjured. That's unnecessary, the sword hero Ryoma said directly. My ability can directly freeze the sea surface in a small area. Indeed, I almost forgot about your abilities. Wilhelm was stunned. The ability of Dog Fruit Phantom Beast species Big Mouth True God form. Not only can the sword hero Ryoma's physical fitness be astonishingly improved, but also his speed, strength, endurance, resilience and other aspects are greatly enhanced, and it also gives him a rather weak ice-type calendar. Although it is impossible to be as exaggerated as the Logia frozen fruit ability user in Naval Headquarters, he can directly freeze a super wide range of sea areas in an instant at every turn. But it is expected that if you just want to freeze the sea in a small area, it will be used as a temporary battlefield, a ring. It can still be done easily. In short, the big battle is coming, and while there is still some time, it's good for you to exchange ideas and hone your own strengths, but control it a little, and remember not to make too much noise. Wilhelm directly warned Shiryu of the rain. Miyamoto Musashi, Feathered Snake Kerr, and Swordsman Ryoma. I can heal you for ordinary injuries, but if you accidentally die, I won't take care of you. Up. He didn't want to lose one or two of the team he had built with great difficulty. After speaking, Wilhelm whistled directly. Below the castle, his mount, Snow Mastiff Fingley, was summoned by his master and rushed over immediately. Leaping high there, he transformed in midair in a blink of an eye, turning into a huge eagle and soaring into the sky. Swipe. Wilhelm disappeared on the rooftop in an instant. It flew to the back of the snow-white eagle in the sky. In the eyes of Smoothie, Shiryu of the Rain, Miyamoto Musashi and others, Fingley, in the form of a vulture, trembled, fluttered his wings, and flew towards the sky with Wilhelm on his back. That's when Wilhelm set off from Juice Island to Cake Island. Naval Headquarters far away in the first half of the Grand Line, Marineford. In the large conference hall on the top floor of the Majestic Naval Headquarters building. All officers above the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral level gathered here and took their seats in an orderly manner. The atmosphere is extremely solemn. Charlotte Wilhelm, the 22nd son of the Charlotte family, the trembling nobleman. With a snap, Marshal Kong of Naval Headquarters stuck a wanted notice about Wilhelm on the blackboard of the podium. His voice was impassioned, and he said loudly there, on the night of July 20, 1503, on the Sea Circle calendar, he broke into the Marie Joyes, the central holy place of the world government, and stole a large number of devil fruit and famous swords from the world's nobles and even the world government's treasury. This unprecedentedly bad, daring, and lawless act is not only a provocation to the celestial dragons, but also a provocation to the world government, and even a serious provocation to the majesty of the Naval Headquarters. All the Marine generals present could not help but look solemn and dignified. At the same time, there are also some rear admiral leaders who are paying close attention to this huge conflict that may change the situation in the sea, and the culprit who was offered a reward of 100 million berries by Marine. Charlotte Wilhelm. This time, since the opening of the Great Pirate Era, Marine spared no effort to mobilize a large number of elite troops to slow down the suppression. Since the opening of the Great Pirate Era, the increasingly bad situation in the first half of the Grand Line has organized a large-scale expeditionary fleet for the first time. Prepare to go deep into the hinterland of New World, and crusade against the Big Mom pirate group firmly entrenched in the Toto Land Sea area in the middle half of New World. Everyone must not be careless or underestimate the enemy. These cruel and tyrannical New World pirates who burned, killed, looted, committed all kinds of crimes, have continued to develop over the years, and have gathered a large number of pirates under their command through various methods such as coercion, bribery, and even force. The vicious pirates, with tens of thousands or even more troops, have already ruled the sea area of New World like a pirate king. As he spoke, Kong, who was full of seriousness, made another pop. Post Big Mom. Charlotte Linland's extremely exaggerated bounty and jaw-dropping arrest warrant on the blackboard. Especially, the target we are going to crusade this time, the captain of the Big Mom pirates, Big Mom, Charlotte Linland, is an extremely powerful sky pirate with a vicious reputation. When I was 5 years old, due to unknown reasons, I destroyed the village of the Titan tribe, Al-Baf. When I was 6 years old, the Marine offered a reward of 50 million shellfish for destroying the town and causing huge losses and casualties to the people. Lee. Then he committed a series of brutal and various evil deeds in just a few years, threatening the world more and more. Cadres, and today their bounty is more than 4 billion Baileys. To put it bluntly, this is an out-and-out natural monster. It is rumored that her skin is as tough as a steel balloon, invulnerable to weapons and guns, and she has never been injured in battle since her debut, and shed a drop of blood. Under her leadership, the Big Mom pirates, with members of the Charlotte family as the core and blood as the bond, have grown rapidly like a snowball, and have become a major evil force that cannot be ignored in the New World. Having said this in one breath, Kong paused for a moment. He raised his big hand in front of him, clenched it tightly into a fist, and his voice was sonorous and powerful, and he said loudly, "This will be a fierce battle, but we soldiers will never back down, and justice will prevail." Hiss. Listen to Kong's extremely serious introduction. Some officers who didn't know Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin very well could not help but gasp, and their scalps were numb. Destroyed the villages of the Titans at the age of 5, wreaking havoc. A reward of 50 million Baileys was offered at the age of 6, and a reward of more than 500 million Baileys was offered before he was a teenager. The skin is as tough as steel, invulnerable to swords and guns, has never been injured in battle, let alone shed a drop of blood. This is simply inhuman. At the same time, they had the rumored 22nd son of the Charlotte family who had perfectly inherited the talent of Charlotte Linlin and was also a born monster, Charlotte Wilhelm. With a more intuitive understanding, this and her mother, Charlotte Linlin, are completely reproduced from a template. He was only 15 years old, and he had already been offered a reward of 1 billion Baileys. Even the powerful faction vice admiral, who was rumored to have sufficient strength to serve as the admiral of headquarters in Marine, was listed as a candidate for admiral, and the representative of the new generation of Hawks, Inu Sakazuki himself, failed to keep him. It is said that both sides still lose. It's unbelievable, and I feel a little cold. Next, our Marine staff will give you a detailed explanation of the information about the Big Mom pirates. When Suru Vice Admiral, the Marine staff officer, stepped onto the podium under the gesture of Kong, who was already a little dry. Looking at the Marine generals present, she took a deep breath, and continued. First of all, the captain of the Big Mom pirates, Big Momi Charlotte Linlin. I won't say much about her experience. Suru Vice Admiral said in a deep voice. Charlotte Linlin, Paramisha Soul Fruit ability user, can use the ability of Soul Fruit to deprive other people's souls, and the unit is lifespan. Anyone, no matter how they answer her torture-style soul spell, as long as they have the slightest fear, they may be deprived of their soul by her. She can create a special life called homies with herself and even the soul that she has deprived, so she has a huge homies army as a combat force, and according to our intelligence, Charlotte Linlin has created 2 extremely special homies. One is Prometheus the sun, and Zeus the thunder cloud. Their bodies are fire and cloud respectively. Charlotte Linlin can almost conquer the weather by ordering them, and can arbitrarily bringing thunderstorms and other natural disasters. Most of the generals have solemn faces, a little awe-inspiring. Some young Marine generals couldn't help swallowing their saliva. This exaggerated devil fruit ability. It simply subverted the imagination, and it was extremely terrifying. Charlotte Wilhelm, suspected to be a Paramisha-capable person, has a rare space-type ability. The specifics are unknown. This person perfectly inherits the blood of Charlotte Linlin. He is also an invulnerable monster born with copper skin and iron bones. He also has the blood of the fur tribe. He has broken the restrictions of race and can turn into a legendary monster under any circumstances. Moonlion, in this state, whether it is strength, speed, reaction ability or even hockey will be greatly increased, and the strength will be improved in all directions. Marine has encountered and fought with him twice, but because I didn't understand its incomparably strange and terrifying ability at all, I was not prepared beforehand, and I suffered heavy losses. So far, it has been discovered that this person can instantly transfer himself and any target to any. For example, even if a large warship launched shelling at him from a long distance, he could instantly move that warship in front of him as a target, facing those incoming shells, even if he was facing an enemy several nautical miles away. Fleet, he can also make the pirate ship break into the formation of the fleet in an instant. It can be said that it is elusive and unpredictable. Suru Vice Admiral put his hands heavily on the podium. She stared directly at all the generals present with her stern eyes, which made the hearts of these Marines senior generals tremble. Don't be careless, this person's ability is to some extent more dangerous than Big Mom. The Marine staff officer looked more serious than ever, and said in a deep voice, according to our speculation, if Hockey is not strong enough, he may be completely unable to block his mysterious and strange ability, and he is not even qualified to face him head-on. Especially the demon fruit power, if he accidentally throws it into the sea. Once encountered, be vigilant and be careful of his abilities. Heard the words. All the generals present couldn't help shrinking their pupils sharply, their scalps were all numb, and their colors changed in shock. An indescribable chill surged up from the soles of my feet to my forehead. I just feel cold all over. This ability is simply invincible. How can that be? Hey, isn't this kind of ability too exaggerated? In this world, there is such an unreasonable ability. Another born monster, and actually has the blood of the fur tribe? Charlotte family, make some monsters. Charlotte Katakuri, the second son of the Charlotte family, one of the 3 desert generals of the Big Mom pirates, a Paramisha Nuno fruit-capable person, with a bounty of 856 million Baileys. Charlotte Paraspero, the eldest son of the Charlotte family, one of the 3 desert generals of the Big Mom pirates, Paramisha fruit-licking ability, bounty 612 million Baileys. Charlotte Cracker, the 10th son of the Charlotte family, one of the 3 dessert generals of the Big Mom Pirates, a paramecia biscuit fruit-capable person, with a bounty of 533 million Baileys. In addition to the 3 astonishingly powerful dessert generals in the Charlotte family, the strength of other members of the Charlotte family cannot be ignored. Located in the second row of conference seats, Akainu sat there with a gloomy face, feeling a little inexplicably irritable. As for Suru Vice Admiral, the Marine staff officer on the podium, he was there to tell the relevant information about the Big Mom Pirate Group in detail, and he couldn't listen to it at all. It seemed that there was endless anger burning, and people couldn't help but frightened eyes, staring fixedly at the wanted notice that belonged to Wilhelm on the blackboard above. That kid. I felt a dull pain in the criss-crossing scars on my body that had completely healed in 3 or 4 months with my monster-like physical fitness. Akainu clenched his fists tightly, full of awe-inspiring murderous intent. This time, Laozi won't spare him. Such a scar was left on his body by a 15-year-old kid. This is a shame for Sakazuki, who has always been proud and conceited. Aokiji, who was sitting on the left side of Akainu, suddenly asked, "Sakazuki, you have fought against this little kid from the Charlotte family, so you should know his strength better?" In the large expedition fleet this time, except for the Admiral of Headquarters Buddha Sengoku who is personally in command, the 3 Admiral candidates may all be on the list. It seems that Marshal Kong is not content to be passive. They intend to take this opportunity to defeat the Big Mom Pirates in one fell swoop, and use this as a springboard to announce to the world that Naval Headquarters will return to the New World with a big victory. Instead of just being forced to withdraw the main force of Marine from New World to the first half of the Grand Line by the pirates who kept making troubles in New World as before. Even the Marine currently in New World can only hide in the G5 fortress obediently, and has no control and deterrent power over the sea area of New World. Currently, Marine's influence on New World can be said to be minimal. It can barely radiate to Doris Rosa and other countries and islands located in the waters near the entrance of the first half of New World. If after destroying the powerful Big Mom Pirate Group, use the Toto Land Sea area as a springboard to expand the base and garrison a large number of troops, it may really be possible to change the status quo and greatly reverse the current disadvantage of Marine in New World. As a result, they gained a firm foothold in New World and began to turn from defense to offense. Then it threatens the New World, led by the Whitebeard pirates, those large and small pirate forces. Undoubtedly, one day those big pirates will be wiped out in one fell swoop, ending this turbulent era of big pirates. He has copper skin and iron bones, and the toughness of his skin is exaggerated than steel. Even my lava fruit ability can't cause decent damage to it, that is, relying on the high-level armament hockey to destroy it from the inside, thus shocking him, that's all. Sakazuki frowned. But there was no response to reject Aokiji's question. With a serious face, he said in a deep voice, "To be honest, I didn't have any carelessness in the battle with him last time, but I was still defeated by his weird and unpredictable ability, and I, who have no place to stand on the sea, have nowhere to rely on, and it is difficult to give full play to the advantages, and I have fought for life and death, and the result is a lose-lose result. I always think that his existence is more threatening than that crazy woman Charlotte Linlin, not only in terms of talent and strength, but also in terms of his mind, strategy, and potential. If you let him go, the future will be a bigger threat." Speaking of which, he subconsciously touched the scar on his abdomen. His face gradually became ferocious, and he said decisively, "But the ugly word is up front, Kuzan. That brat is my prey, and you don't need to intervene. I will end him myself." "Ah, it seems that your obsession is a bit deep. Don't worry, I won't snatch it from you." Aokiji shrugged. He has just turned 30, and he is younger than Sakazuki, who is already 36, and Paluzolino, who is 39. Except for the innate advantage of being able to freeze the sea with the ability of Logia frozen fruit, no one can match it. Although he is also a candidate for Admiral, Aokiji is very clear that his current self is still a bit behind Sakazuki, who is in his golden age and is gradually reaching the peak of his strength. Considering the opponent's terrifying ability that is hard to guard against, and even warships can be transferred in an instant. In the next fierce battle with the Big Mom Pirates, it really came to the moment when the two camps had to fight hand to hand and began to fight chaotically. If the battlefield is not placed on an island, he, the Logia Frozen Fruits ability user, will definitely freeze the sea directly, so as to create battlefield conditions that are conducive to Marine's attack. In this situation, since Akainu wants to choose that Charlotte Wilhelm as his opponent, and wants to make a complete settlement and wash away the shame, Aokiji will not stop him. If even Akainu couldn't kill that brat, even if he himself did it, the result would be the same. "Sakazuki, Marshal Sora told me earlier that I'll take care of that brat." Paluzolino, who was sitting on the right side of Akainu with his legs crossed, turned his head and said in a strange tone with his mouth twisted, "It's hard for me to do this." He made a special trip to the capital of water twice to catch that Charlotte Wilhelm, but was slippery and evaded in advance. Kizaru is also full of curiosity about that trembling nobleman, now, and gave birth to a big interest of. He who has the ability of Logia sparkling fruit. Even in the entire naval headquarters, the speed is well deserved first. Now that it is rare to meet a person with teleportation ability, it is natural to have a competitive heart. Although in theory, the opponent's teleportation is a real space movement. It is indeed faster than his, moving at the speed of light, which is far from the real speed of light. But there is a limit to the human neural response ability. In addition, there are limitations in various aspects such as physical fitness. Therefore, he believes in ambiguous justice, and rarely has any aggressive thoughts. Even the mission of catching pirates is careless Paluzolino. It's rare to be interested in it, and want to experience Charlotte Wilhelm's teleportation ability and compete with the other party. See if this natural monster of the Charlotte family is really faster than himself.